Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by CacheFly. CacheFly.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Radio Networks on Sunday, February 10th, 2013. This is episode 952. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell last year's gadgets. Find out what your used iPad, MacBook, iPhone, Galaxy S, or other smartphone is worth at Gazelle.com. And by Ting.com. Ting is a new mobile phone service that makes sense. Save money with Ting. Pay for what you use. And you don't have to sign a contract. Plus, you get unlimited devices on a single pool plan. To save $25 on your first Ting device, visit techguy.ting.com. Techguy.ting.com. And by ShareFile. Enhance your workflow. Send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile from Citrix. Try ShareFile today for a 30-day free trial. Go to sharefile.com, click the radio microphone, and enter Tech Guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. It's time to talk about computers, the internet, cell phones, home theater, all that jazz. Oh, lots to talk about. Actually, there's a big security flaw that we're going to talk about later today with my security guru, Steve Gibson. I think we'll save that for the third hour, make you listen to the whole thing. It's funny because it's such a technical flaw, and yet is so widespread. So it's an interesting mix. You know, it's so technical that mainstream media is going to just, I don't know how they'll cover it, or if they will at all, because it's just too complicated to explain. And I'll just give you a little tip, so you could decide. Do you think this is too complicated? It is a flaw in UPnP that allows a bad guy to access UPnP through the WAN interface and gain access to your network. See, I can't see USA Today writing that in a headline. However, it's prevalent in more than 1,000 routers, and it's a very bad bug because it means a bad guy can, if you have this flaw in your router, you know, the router is the thing that connects you the internet. And a lot of times, and this is a big problem, a lot of times nowadays when you get internet access, you get the cable modem or the DSL modem with a router built in. So you don't even choose the router. You're using the router the company gave you, your internet service provider gave you. Oftentimes those are old, out of date. I don't know if they're more or less prone to this problem, but you know, my guess would be more. And it's hard to replace because you've got to kind of get in there and change the way the cable or DSL modem works. It's complicated. And yet, this flaw is so serious that it could easily be used to gain access to your computers from the internet. So scary. And it doesn't have to be next door neighbors. It can be anywhere in the world. 1,000 brand names, over 80 million routers in service right now. Yeah, whoa. Anyway, the bottom line, and this is something I don't see mainstream media explaining to you. The bottom line is you need to go into your router interface. You know how you do that, where you go into I hear myself coming through that, and it's not something that you can you know, easily do unless you have your router manual. You'll go into your router interface, and through the web, you know, 192.168.1.1 or whatever it is, and then you have to turn off UPnP, Universal Plug and Play. That's something I recommend anyway. In fact, you know what? This would be a good time as long as you're in there. Let's talk about some of the things you should do when you get a brand new router. Now, a router could be a Wi-Fi, you know, wireless router, or it could be a wired router. Most of the time these days it's Wi-Fi, so I'll tell you everything you should do with a Wi-Fi router. First, with any router, the first thing you want to do is change the password and login for the router, because there's a definitive, you know, a standard password and router login for your router that everybody knows. So if you have a Linksys, it's admin or whatever. You want to change that right away. That's the first thing you should do. And write it down because you want to be able to get into your router settings later, and you'll need that password to do so. Right there, that's enough to throw 90% of the people out there. They go, oh, I don't want to do that. I just want to use the one that's in the manual. The problem is the one that's in the manual, everybody knows because it's the same for all routers. All right, do that. Change the login and the password for configuring your router. You really want to do that. You also want to go in and turn off something called WAN, Wide Area Network, WAN administration. That means the ability for somebody outside of your network to configure your router. Well, you don't want to leave that on. That's in there for businesses where the IT guy is at home. He doesn't want to come in, and so he wants to do something from home. It shouldn't be on, but unfortunately, many routers, it is on by default. So if it's on, uncheck that box, WAN administration. You don't need that. And then look for something called UPnP. This is something Microsoft invented, Universal Plug and Play. That is a huge security problem. It always has been. The idea is that hardware or software inside your network can go to the router and open holes in the firewall. And it was Microsoft, I'm pretty convinced, did it for Xbox. Because if you want to do Xbox gaming and you want somebody to add you to a game, you need to allow that person into your network. So the Xbox, you'll even see the Xbox complain if this isn't turned on. The Xbox goes and says to the router, hey, when traffic comes in for me, would you let it through, and vice versa? And the router goes, yeah, okay. And it does this all silently. It's a silent negotiation. And Microsoft did it because, well, they figured you shouldn't have to. The problem is, it's fine if it's the Xbox. That's not a hole. That's not a flaw. The problem is that if, let's say, a bad guy gets some malware on your system, one of the first things that malware will do is go and look at your router and say, hey, open up all the ports, open up the firewall, let everybody in. It's free time, play time. And they can do that if UPnP is turned on without your permission or knowledge. They can effectively turn off the firewall from inside your network. That's how UPnP is supposed to work. That's normal. This new flaw is worse because the same thing can happen from outside your network. Oh, boy. So you definitely want to turn off UPnP. There is an unfortunate bit of information. There are routers that turning off UPnP internally still doesn't fix this external UPnP problem. Oh, boy. You also, yeah. Now, if you're on a Wi-Fi router, you want to turn on encryption. That means that the signal that's flying through the air is scrambled up. And that encryption is the one that you want. Sometimes they're called, one is called WEP. That's broken. It was badly designed. Anybody can crack through that. That's a snap. So turn on WPA2. Now, that means anytime you want to use your router, the first time you use it, you'll have to give a password to the router from the computer. But it remembers that and won't have to do it again. But anybody who comes into your house, you'll have to give them the password. That's okay. That's good. That means somebody sitting outside needs a password and he doesn't have it, right? So turn on WPA2. And if you are on a wireless router, it's not a bad idea to rename the SSID. That's the name the router broadcasts. It's normally Linksys or Buffalo or, you know, there's a standard name. Sometimes they put some numbers after it. It's best to not announce what brand of router you're using because some routers have known flaws and you don't want to let everybody know. So give it a name. You can use constellations. I use Dead Rock Stars. I've got Morrison. I've got Hendrix. I've got Joplin. That's how and if I see that name, then I know, oh, that's one of mine. But you could pick anything you want. Constellations. Don't use your street address. That's kind of asking for trouble. I wouldn't put identifiable information in the name of the router, the SSID. I wouldn't put your last name, your family name. Sometimes people have fun with the SSID. They say, you know, FBI hacker test unit, or don't use my Wi-Fi, bro. You could do that. But just the point is, don't have identifying information in the router. The name of the router, brand, or your own name or your address. You could put emoji in the SSID, says Tucker in our chat room. I like that. So those are things you should do on a new router, and most of the time that is both sufficient and you should do it. It's the minimum and sufficient to complete your security setup. This new UPnP bug, unfortunately, does not necessarily get fixed by turning off UPnP. Somebody in the chat room says turn off SSID broadcast. You can. I don't think that's a useful thing. If somebody wants to hack you, whether it's turned on or off doesn't make any difference. Same with MAC address filtering. A lot of people like that. That doesn't work either. So just turn on WPA2 and broadcast away. It's okay. You've got a good obscure name. It doesn't matter. All right. Enough silly techie stuff. Let's get to the phones. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, you don't need to turn off MAC address filtering or SSID identifying because it's in the packet. What you really just want to do is make sure you have. One thing I've learned as I've aged to do what. It's probably a lousy way to begin the show because it's so techie, but it's such an important thing. All right, Chris Marquardt, photo guy. No, I know who you are in the chat room, folks. Jim Tez, I know you are geeks, or you wouldn't be there. But remember, this is a radio show that's broadcast to 1 million normal people. And they're going, now it's 500,000, because half of them turned out right away. I said, I don't understand this show. Is there a woodworking show on tonight? Abraham Linksys, I like that. It's okay to name it Linksys if it's not a Linksys, by the way. In fact, that's a good idea. Waste a hacker's time today. Steve is going to do the show, do 1:30 Pacific. He'll be the third hour. He's going to essentially say the same thing I just said, but with more authority.
Gibson projectors showcase amazing color brightness for brilliant image quality. With today's high-definition content, you want your movies to appear with show-stopping quality in both darkened home theaters and...
Your mom emailed you when the power was out.
Is not enough.
Pretty fly for a Wi-Fi. FBI truck, I like that. SSID Stuxnet. SSID, come here and get a virus. Your ham call's probably all right, Smokey Bear, although I'll be honest with you, if I were a thief, I would see the ham call, I'd say, let's look that person up in the the QSL database. Let's go to QST or whatever and look this person up. Because I know he's going to have some nice expensive gear, and I'll just get his address. I think it's best to have no identifying information.
With 3 times the color brightness than competitive models. Visit Epson.
QRZ, that's right.
To learn more. Epson, built to perform.
Steve Gibson, Tech Dino, he is the guy who hosts our security show, Security Now. And is the guy, we did a whole show on this UPnP problem. He's the explainer-in-chief, that's right. Is Steve did he just join the chat room? Was UPnP, does it predate the Xbox? All right, well, that's good to know. The Xbox is the one compelling argument, I think, for UPnP. Promoted by the UPnP Forum, a computer industry initiative to enable simple and robust connectivity to standalone devices and personal computers from many different vendors. It's an extension of Microsoft's Plug and Play. Remember, Microsoft came up with Plug and Play. Let's see where the history of this is. Standards, components, NAT traversal. Problems with UPnP. Yes. No authentication. There's a problem. Accepting WAN requests. In 2011, researcher Daniel Garcia developed a tool designed to exploit a flaw in some UPnP IGD device stacks that allow UPnP requests from the WAN. Published at DEF CON 19, it allows port mapping requests to external IP address from the device and internal IP addresses behind the NAT. Vulnerabilities detected in 2013. Rapid 7, this is the one we were talking about. Team scanned for signals from UPnP-enabled devices, announcing their availability for internet connections. 6,900 network-aware products, 1,500 companies, 81 million IP addresses.
say I'm pretty fly.
Pretty fly for a Wi-Fi. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So just real quickly, Steve Gibson will be talking about this, kind of significant security flaw. In the third hour, he'll come by and give us some details. But just so you understand this we all became aware of this last month when a company called Rapid7 reported on a 6-month program they had been doing scanning for this flaw. They found 6,900 products from 1,500 companies and 81 million computers responding to their requests. 80% of those devices home routers, but also including printers, webcams, and surveillance cameras. Using this protocol, many of those devices can be accessed and or manipulated. Imagine you have a camera in your house that's on the network that has this flaw, and a bad guy could just log in, turn it on, see what's going on. That's nice. If you want to test your network, Steve did put up a testing program. He's had a program for years called Shields Up that people use to test the security of their routers. He's adapted it to test for this flaw as well. So you can go to grc.com. G is his website. He'll talk about this in a couple of hours. grc.com. And you'll see Shields Up in the services. Run that. And there'll be a big button that will say, oh, great, we've GRC's Instant UPnP Exposure Test. Click that, and then what you're hoping is that after a few seconds, it will come back and say, hey, good news, your router did not respond to my query. But so far, a lot of people have run this test. 1,218 people who got the response, yeah, I can get into your system. That's when you want to worry. Apple routers not susceptible to this. Somebody was asking. Nope, the airports are not susceptible to this. They don't use UPnP. But many of the most commonly sold routers are, so that's why it's worth testing. JR, Detroit, Michigan. Sorry to get so geeky on you. Hi, JR. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello there, Leo. Nice to talk to you, and I have a question for you. I hope it doesn't sound too stupid here, but I'm looking at external hard drives, but I don't really want to go the USB route. I have 2 Windows PCs. They're both running Windows Pro 7.
It really has to do with the hardware available to you on the computer. Do you have connections other than USB?
No, I have. I have.
That's why you use USB, because you have USB ports on your computer. You could add FireWire, or the best would be external SATA, eSATA. Mm-hmm. You don't have an eSATA port. Is it a laptop or a desktop?
These are 2 desktops.
Yeah, you can buy an eSATA card that you can add to the computer.
That won't hook into a PCI. I only have one PCI Express port open, and that's used for.
So this is one of the reasons USB 3 came out, and a lot of manufacturers are using it now with the new Ivy Bridge chipset. It's really much faster than USB 2, which is what you have probably.
Right.
I
was hoping to just hook. It's called an NAS, Network Attachment.
Right.
Something.
Network Attached Storage is what it's called, yeah.
There you go. But I'm looking for something that's reasonably priced.
Well, most NAS systems do not, in fact, hook up to the computer via USB. They're on. That's what the N stands for. They're on the network. They're via Ethernet.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's exactly what I want. I can either hook it up to my router in the living room.
Yeah, that's what you want. So you're looking for, and what that will act as is a network a device that is visible to all your computers as a shared hard drive. You could put software on there that will do all sorts of things. Back up your computers automatically, share music files via an iTunes or a Windows media server, will share photos, share videos. It becomes a ginormous central drive accessible to all your computers, and
Correct.
even in some cases TVs and other devices.
Now, okay, now here's the golden question. Do you have one that you can recommend? I'm having a hard time finding one.
Oh, yeah, I have several I'll recommend. My favorite for most users is Synology, Synology.
Oh.
Their disk stations are affordable. They have 2-drive and larger systems. Usually these are multi-drive systems because you want lots of capacity, and the multiple drives also give you data redundancy, and that's nice.
Okay.
So Synology is good. And then if you want something a little more heavy duty, I use the ReadyNAS from Netgear. And I love the ReadyNASs. Netgear. But either one of those would be fine. There are lots of companies that make these. Generally, they make enclosures, and then you buy the drives to put in there.
Oh, I see.
That's common.
Got any idea what kind of price range you're talking about for 1 terabyte?
Oh, a terabyte's easy. That won't be horribly expensive. Maybe $500. But the thing is, generally you want larger because you're going to be putting everything on there. You know, all your photos, all your movies, all your music, all your backups. So what they often do, and for instance, my ReadyNAS has 4 drive bays, and I'll put 4 terabyte or nowadays maybe even 2 terabyte drives in there. Roughly a third of that gets used up by data redundancy. So you subtract about 30% from the total. So let's say I put 4 terabyte drives in there. That means I'm going to have about 2.8 terabytes free. And that's a lot of storage. And if any one of those drives fails, because of the data redundancy, I just pop it out and put a new drive in. It rebuilds itself. I've not lost any data. And that's, remember, think about this. If you're using 4 drives without data redundancy, you have 4 times greater chance of a drive failure and loss of everything. Because, each drive has a certain chance of failing, and you multiply it by 4, and you got 4 drives. Because if any one of those drives fails, the whole thing collapses. That's why you have to have data redundancy. The data redundancy means any single drive can fail, and you can pop in a new one, and you're still good to go. There's some even that allow you to lose 2 drives. Generally, those are bigger. They have more drives in there. This is a nice choice, I think, for people who need massive storage. It's interesting. We go through phases in computing, don't we? And because of cloud storage now, people using SkyDrive and Dropbox and Box.net and all these other cloud solutions, I think people are less interested in centralized local storage. But there's nothing. I mean, if you have massive amounts of data, terabytes of data, there's nothing as good as just a giant drive. Drobo makes these as well, but Drobo's good for an external USB drive with data redundancy. But if you want to put it on the network, I'm not crazy about the Drobo Share. I haven't tried it lately, but I'm not crazy about the Drobo Share software in there. I like ReadyNAS from Netgear. That's a power tool, and the Synologies. And both of these are essentially running Linux, which means they're very reliable. Stephen, Long Beach, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Stephen.
Hello, sir. Big fan.
Thank you.
And let me say, I love that Tech Guy Labs because whatever your answer is to my question, I'm not going to be able to comprehend it.
You can go back at your leisure. Go back to our website, techguylabs.com, and read it over. In fact, what we do is we put the video up there, the audio. You can listen to it over and over until it makes sense and even comment on it. Hey, hang on, Steve. We're going to take a break. We'll come back here next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You can't hear the caller, Superman? Oh, look at that. Maybe that's true because I see number 3 is out. Can you hear the? Can you hear this? That's the back filter. Oh, you just couldn't understand him. That I can't help you with. Yeah, home group sharing is safe. I don't know of any flaws with home group sharing. Oh, you don't want that?
That's the mixed minus that we're sending back to Premiere.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's how we do it, huh? Well, that's new. So don't turn that on.
Yes, that's new.
So
we couldn't figure out how to send the automatically generated mixed minus.
Really?
To the Omnia. It couldn't.
Huh.
You have to be the device to get that back feed, the automatically generated
right.
actually back feed. So
it doesn't recognize this, and that's why we started using the digital ISDN so that it would recognize it as a device.
Well, it works fine with if you send it. No, we can send the automatic backfeed to the digital ISDN fine because it's coming from the digital ISDN.
Right.
What we needed to do was send it to the Omnia.
And the Omnia won't recognize it?
Well, the Omnia will get the whole thing. It won't get a backfeed.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right.
And so when Joe I puzzled over this for a very long time, and then Joe was here. He said, "Oh,
Well,
you know
just
what?
pop it out."
Are you using any of these
Right.
programs?
Just use them. That's what they're for. Yeah.
So
That's how we used to do it in the old days. Yeah, yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. So yeah, three.
What happens when I put it in? Do I get double up?
Back.
Yeah, I'll hear myself back.
Everything will come back to them twice.
Okay.
No, I don't think you'll hear yourself back.
They'll hear echo. Right. Right. Gee. I do not have the Porky Pig. I don't think. I think I sent that off into space. Gazelle. Let's talk about Gazelle. Let me talk about Gazelle. Do you know about Gazelle.com? Oh, I love Gazelle. Gazelle is a really good thing to know about if you have a drawer of stuff that you no longer use, or a closet, or in some cases a rented storage space. Are you a hoarder? You need to know about Gazelle. This is the easy way to get cash for your old stuff. Let's say you've got, here's a good example. I think a lot of people have this. You've got a Samsung Galaxy Note, AT&T, or a Galaxy S2, and you want, or let's say you got an S3. This is what I have, and I want to get a Galaxy Note, right? The Note 2. What shape is it? It's good shape. I used it. No water damage. No. All right, let's see what it's worth. $206. Boom. Okay, now I'm going to go get some more stuff. Let's say I have an iPhone 4S, too, that I'm not using, and that's on AT&T, and that's $225. Boom. Here's the deal. You throw all this stuff into a box. They actually send you the box. They pay the postage on anything worth more than $1. And then they send you a check, a PayPal credit, or an Amazon gift card. I get the Amazon gift card because they add 5% to it. They buy Macs, notebooks, and desktops. They buy iPods. They buy iPads. They buy a variety of cell phones. They even, let's say, I don't think this will be worth quite as much, but you've got an AT&T BlackBerry Torch. You foolishly bought that. It's in flawless condition because you immediately stopped using it. And is it free of water damage? Well, it was tempting to throw it in the ocean. $85. Hey, better than nothing. Throw it in that box. Get paid. You got 30 days to do it, by the way. It's good for 30 days. Gazelle has paid $50 million to 500,000 users over the last few years. You're going to love this. Gazelle.com. Highly recommended. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Anybody buy a Surface Pro? I guess there were only a few thousand available. Friday, Microsoft put its version of its Windows 8 hardware. For the first time ever, Microsoft's making computers. You know, when somebody told me that, I thought, that can't be right. And then I thought, no, they've never made computers. They sold Windows to companies that made computers like IBM and Dell and Lenovo, but they never made computers themselves until now. They started with the Surface RT tablet 3 months ago, and now Windows 8 is available on a Microsoft computer called the Surface. It's called Surface Pro. And they sold out almost immediately. There were two models, a 64 gig and 128 gig. Did anybody buy one? Call me. Give me your review. I have the Surface RT, and I'm waiting to decide. It seems to me, just looking at what they're doing, that there are better Windows 8 choices out there. Lots better. But I'm curious if somebody's crazy about the Surface and wants to tell me about it. I'd love to hear about it. There's some nice Ultrabooks. Acer makes a beautiful kind of opalescent white Ultrabook with a touch screen laptop. It seems like there's better stuff out there. But maybe I'm wrong. You tell me. Now, we were talking to Stephen in Long Beach, and I'm sorry I had to put you on hold. Hi, Stephen.
Hello there. Okay, here's my question.
Yes, sir.
I might have a couple. Cut me off whenever I get boring. I had an iPhone on Verizon. I have an iPad. My contract ran out, so I was looking at logic and money, and it made sense to. I got an HTC Evo V from Virgin Mobile.
The
And
Virgin
now-
Mobile deal is a good deal because you have unlimited data and so forth.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy so far. The reception is fabulous, surprisingly, from what I had heard. And
Yeah, it's on Sprint.
Yes.
So however Sprint works wherever you are, that's how well Virgin Mobile will work. Yeah.
But I'm having a problem with the text messaging because I have this ongoing conversation with, say, a friend who's got his iPhone and iPad.
Yeah.
And now I send him a text message on my new phone, HTC. He receives it. He responds. It only goes to my iPad through, I guess, that Apple Message.
Oh, he's using Message. That's why. Yeah.
But also, for example, the Facebook generator, the Facebook, like I log into a new...
The code generator. So the Facebook app. Yeah.
I no longer receive... I was somehow... I guess I turned on this code generator, which I think I figured out, but it still says it's going to send me a text message to confirm login.
Right. So there's a couple of things you need to do. You haven't told all the relevant parties that you're no longer using that iPhone. So it's easy one with Facebook is you go into your Facebook account and you register your new phone number.
It's the same phone number. I ported over the number.
Yeah, I would do it. I'd just delete it and start over because you may remember they ask also for what carrier. And it may be somehow getting confused. So make sure you just delete it and start over, and it'll send you a code. I actually, it's funny. I wonder if this is a Sprint thing because I had trouble with a Sprint phone getting Facebook to recognize my Sprint phone. It never did send a code. So there may be a problem with Sprint, and since you're in Virgin Mobile, you're riding on Sprint's back. But since you really don't want it to send it to the old phone anymore, I would just delete that phone from your Facebook settings, add the new phone, and that should solve the problem of the Facebook generator.
Is there any way that I'm going to...
I think you got to get your friend to change his contacts and make sure that he's not using your .me account anymore, or your Mac account, .mac account, or your...
Sure he's sending it to my phone number?
Yeah, so what's happening is Messages says, oh, I have Stephen in my phone book, not only at this phone number, but also Stephen@me.com or Mac.com or, and so what you need to do is make sure he deletes that from his... He shouldn't have to do this. This is dumb. But he needs to delete that, I believe, from his contact list. And then Messages won't take over. It won't say, oh, yeah, I can handle this over the Internet.
But then I won't receive it on my iPad, which is Wi-Fi only.
Oh, no, you won't. So you want to get it on your phone and your iPad.
Is that impossible?
That's interesting. This is a little flaw in Apple's, little fly in Apple's ointment.
I'm wondering if he's got two different open threads from me. One from the iMessage. I don't know.
Yeah, he might. You might be that merely he needs to start over. Delete all his current threads. That's an interesting question. So the idea of Messages, it's too complicated. The idea of Messages is Apple's kind of doing an end around on text messaging. The carriers still charge for text messaging at an exorbitant rate. Most of us now have unlimited text messaging. You do with your Virgin Mobile account. But Apple said, well, look, we could do text messaging as data because you've got a data plan. So why don't we use this clever strategy where if we have to, we'll send it via SMS. But if we have a choice, we'll send it via data to, his other... But in order for that to work, you got to be using an iOS device with a Messages set up. So I think I think there may not be a way around this. If you want to get it on your iPad and your new Android phone, your buddy is sending you. Maybe get your buddy to send it.
Yeah, we're going to sit down.
I don't think you can. I think you got a choice. I think it's Apple Messages or not. If Messages is set up. Now, somebody in the chat room, this is an interesting fix. Let's see if it works. Web9929. Says have him go into the contacts and name that number, not the phone number, not an iPhone, but just a cell phone. The contact says iPhone or cell phone. Tell him now that this is not an iPhone anymore in the contacts. That's a clever idea.
I'm going to tell him to go to Tech Guy Labs and watch it. to do.
It's a shame that he has to change his entry for you, but it's what's happening is messages is confused. It says, oh, he's on an iPhone. I'll just send it to the messages thing. But if it doesn't see an iPhone there, it should send it to the text message phone number using SMS. And presumably also send it to the Mobile Me account.
Right. One quick question, because I'm reading some forums, besides yours, I admit, about this phone, and a lot of solution seems to be removing the battery a couple times. Is this really the case?
Solution for what?
Like to reset things and like.
No, there's a reset command in the settings. You don't need removing the battery doesn't do anything.
Okay, that seems to be people's advice.
There's this thing called computer voodoo. And I've been doing this for 20 plus years, answering people's questions on the radio about computers. And these always come up. Swing a chicken around your head and dance 3 times. It's voodoo. Taking out the battery would do something if the memory of the phone were volatile. But it's not. It's non-volatile. It survives the battery being out. I guess if you took the battery out and left it out for weeks, maybe. But most of the settings, as far as I know, stay there forever. I should try. I have old phones that haven't been charged in years. And I'm pretty sure you put a battery in there, you charge it up, it still says, hey, Leo, how you doing? Because all of that stuff's stored in what we call non-volatile memory. That is memory that survives even when there's no power. I was told, maybe somebody who's been in the military can tell me this, that some of the military manuals actually do have in them the instructions to slap the side of the equipment, to hit it. And to give it a good solid whack. Now, actually, I think that's not voodoo because there's a good chance that'll, if there's something kind of a little loose, it might shake it into place. Have you ever seen that in a military manual? I'd like to know. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, works on people too. There was a name for it. That's so funny. IT, it could be the worst job in the world. It could be the best job. Beef is right. It works on analog equipment only.
And that means having the right tools, especially tools that don't slow you down or give you support nightmares. That's why I use
slap the hardware.
simple integrated cloud-based product that does it all.
Percussive correction. Slapping the water repeatedly. How about strike the hardware? U.S. Army Field Manual. Maybe it's apocryphal. A force adjustment to issued equipment that's operating outside of its designated usage parameters. Precisely. I would love to find that. But don't slap your mama. Yes, sir. I would like some slap your mama. No, but that's not available. So, it's good. It's the best stuff. It's Cajun seasoning. It's so good. I bought it in Nolans. Have you had slap your mama? Oh, it's got a lot of red pepper in it. A lot of salt and a lot of red pepper. It's good on eggs. Let me look at the Petaluma Market. I had a lovely broccoli soup. Today is the 10th, vegetarian lentil, which would be healthful but not delicious. Broccoli cheddar, ham chili. You know what I had for breakfast? That's exactly right, because yesterday it was cream of broccoli. Put some cheddar in it. They'll never know the difference. I'll have the ham chilies. A medium, though. I don't need a big one of that. Thank you. I made waffles for breakfast this morning. Homemade waffles. Oh, they were good. I do. It's like a Belgian waffle maker. You rotate it. Yeah, they're really good. It's a Waring waffle maker. Did not put slap your mama on the waffle. I did put berries on it, however. Hit with a soft hammer in the GE manual for the jet engines. Okay. Penzies is the best spices, absolutely, for mail order. No, I didn't put bacon in them. Should have, though. That sounds good. FM 3-22.9 states that sports, slap, pull, observe, release, tap, and shoot can be used to fix the malfunction of a weapon. I'd guess that, Enron. The force adjustment method. Standard equipment on the Colesman altimeters was a thumper. The iPhone battery is not. I know that. You're telling me something I don't know? No, I know it's non-user removable. He was talking about his Android phone. Field manual, yeah. Yeah, jammed weapon makes sense, but I think I remember it for like analog equipment. Well, this was not obviously on the low-carb diet this morning. I was feeding others. Yeah, I think sometimes slapping digital gear doesn't make a lot of sense, but slapping analog gear, heck yes. Slap, pull, observe, release, tap, and shoot. Sports. I was never in the service. I'm just a little. I was a little too young for Vietnam. I was the last group in the draft, and it pretty ended by then.
All right, sorry if this song is stuck in your head the rest of the day. Not 32 library.
Slap your mama with some waffle. What? Slap your mama with some waffle.
This is combining my two favorite things in the world, this song is. Slap Your Mama was a Cajun seasoning I bought a bunch of in New Orleans because it was so good, and I can't eat eggs without it anymore. And I had waffles. I made waffles, homemade waffles from scratch for breakfast this morning. So there you go. Kyle Benham, our musical director, somehow, presciently, using his ESP, has picked the perfect song. If you like Kyle's musical choices, and who doesn't, you get his playlist on his Google Plus account, Kyle Benham, at the end of the show, and also on our website, techguylabs.com. That's where Stephen will find his answer. So I've put the chat room to work to try to find a field manual that says to strike or hit equipment. Analog equipment, it often works. It often works. In fact, remember we showed that video, or we listened to that video a few weeks back of the guy yelling at his hard drives and how that broke them? Yeah. So Enron Rock says Army Field Manual 3-22.9 recommends something called sports if you have a malfunctioning weapon. Yeah, weapon, it makes sense. Sports stands for slap, pull, observe, release, tap, and shoot. But for some reason, I feel like I'd read somewhere that, just maybe a rubber mallet to the side of equipment. But if it doesn't fix it, at least it's satisfying. At least it makes you feel better. And isn't that what it's all about? George in Santa Monica, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Happy Sunday to you, Leo.
Happy Sunday.
First, before I get to my question, I want to make you smile and tell you a quick thing from last Sunday was Super Bowl Sunday.
I heard about that.
Yeah, my friend's mother was up in Washington State going to her church. Walking in front of the church, the little message board, it said, God has no favorites, .. The sign man does, go Niners.
Well, it wasn't enough, but it almost was enough.
About this problem with compromising iPads and stuff and taking over your camera.
Yeah.
I was on Skype last week, and my camera, when I'm talking to somebody in another state or a different country, I see their image, but on my screen, the little picture window where I normally see myself,
yeah,
it was black.
Yeah. Did you go on the Skype settings to see if it knew you had a camera? Sometimes Skype gets confused. On a computer, it's not unusual for a program to run and lock in the camera, say, it's mine, it's mine. Two programs at the same time can't use a camera. And
well, I tried to find the camera settings. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, they're in there. What I would suggest when that happens, when you can't see yourself in your camera on Skype, is to reboot the machine. What that will do is kind of reset everything to normal. If you had used another,
I did that 2 or 3 times.
and it still's doing that.
Yeah, no, it lasted for 2 days, and then it went away. I took my iPad down to the Apple store. Was going to show them the problem. When I turned it on,
of course. All computer bugs, gremlins, and glitches have built-in radar that when an actual tech comes, they go away. And then, of course, you take it home and it starts up again.
I have an Apple router at home. You said that's fine. I won't have that problem.
No, that's the good news. Apple's routers do not use universal plug-and-play. They use something called UPnP, which is safe in this case, does not have that problem. As for the black camera, is it a Mac or is it Windows?
It's Windows. No, it's an Apple iPad.
Oh, it's on an iPad.
Yeah, Apple iPad.
Oh, an iPad. Oh, so you launched Skype on the iPad. Now I'm curious, and it doesn't see that you have a camera.
Well, now it does. For 2 days.
As soon as you brought it in, it didn't. Right? It did. Yeah.
For 2 days, every time I Skype somebody, I could see them. They said they see me, but I can't see myself.
Oh, but they did see you. Oh, that's interesting. So you would see a little black box, but they would see you.
They would see me, and I said, well, I don't have to see myself because I'm not that good looking.
Yeah. Well, in fact, that may be an asset if they can't see you.
That's when I thought there was a problem. Yeah.
That's interesting. Now I understand why you said, "Oh, I don't have any settings." I don't know where they are hidden on the iPad.
But my question is, if I go to Starbucks or McDonald's that has different Wi-Fi, it might have a chance of getting compromised there, because I don't know what kind of routers they have.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
that's an interesting point. I didn't even think about that. I'll ask Steve next hour when he comes on. That's a very interesting point. We're talking about this problem with UPnP and some routers exposing the internal network to an outside bad guy. I didn't even think about access points.
I was going to ask you to ask Steve that.
I will ask Steve that. He'll be on at the half past the hour not next hour, but the hour after.
Right. Okay.
How interesting.
I'll be home by then. I'll watch the show.
How interesting. Yeah, and George, I'll play with Skype on the iPad. I have it running right here. I should call somebody and see what happens. And maybe I don't know. I've never used Skype on the iPad. I hate to say it, but it's possible that that's just that the iPad can't handle it. It's interesting. Your friends see you, but you don't get a little picture-in-picture with yourself. I don't know. Here's the camera. I don't know exactly even where I would change those settings, because it's an iPad. You probably it just is. John in our chat room says, delete the app and reinstall it. That's kind of the only thing you can do on an iPad. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. I don't think you need to do that. We have one of our chatters says when he was in the Navy, it was a standard, it was in the manual, standard procedure. Let me see if I can find it. They had a name. Was it concussive? Concussive repair? Percussive maintenance. Where something not working. If we see an analog radio, that would make sense. That would make sense that you would do that. Just because maybe something's a little loose. Concussive tuning, WA6VJY says, when I was a radio tech in the Navy, we called it concussion tuning. You just got to show equipment who's boss. That's it. You know, they can tell. You got to let them know who's the alpha dog in this one. I don't know if we're going to be able to solve this problem before the top of the hour news, Bob, but if not, I'll keep you on hold and we'll come back. Bob, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo.
Hey, welcome.
I've got a Mac Pro desktop.
A vintage computer.
Well, I guess it is, but I love it.
I love it too. I'm mocking it. Really, I'm mocking Apple because they haven't updated that thing. And how long has it been? And now it doesn't look like they ever will. Drives me crazy. I love my Mac Pro.
Well, I've got multiple hard drives in there,
Yep.
And I was told that I can do something. I've been told 2 words, span and raid.
Yes.
And I was told that I could make it do 2 things, improve the performance and make my multiple drives appear as one drive.
Right.
But it's above
your pay grade. Well, Chris Breen has a great article rating the Mac Pro in Macworld magazine, which gives you the details. And I'll give you that link at our show notes, techguylabs.com. Because it's kind of a lot more that I want to talk about on the air, but let's see here. Rating the Mac Pro. The nice thing is OS X has it in software. This is good because he describes...
Business is all about communication.
What RAID does, what it is. He talks about striped RAID versus mirrored RAID, and that's really important. And this is all in disk utility. So you can do a concatenated disk set, which that's spanning. That means taking multiple disks and making it look like one big disk. That's the spanning he was talking about. That is not what you probably want to do because, as I mentioned, spanning 2 drives together doubles the chance of failure. Because if either one of those drives dies, you lose all the data. So it's what my friend Alex Lindsay calls scary RAID, where it really increases your chance of failure. But if you do a striped RAID, or a mirrored RAID, I should say, RAID 5. Say the Mac Pro accommodates 1-inch SATA 3 gigabit hard drives internally. You can also use external drives. RAIDs work best, blah, blah, blah. This is really good stuff. Rigging the RAID. Set up the RAID with a disk's copy of disk utility. So you use disk utility to set this all up. And you can see it's a long article. So let me put the link in the chat, and then James, if you put that in the show notes. We will have it for our caller. Ed Bott, Rafe Needleman, and Jason Snell, a great team on Twit today. 3 super pros. And nobody better to talk about Surface Pro than Bott. Snell is the editor-in-chief of IDG's Windows magazine, as well as Macworld. I am watching the Grammys tonight. I'm in a little Grammy party. Me and my grandma. Slap ya mama. Military instruction from the longest day. Okay, this is the World War II D-Day movie.
Hold it. What's the matter? Can't you get your finger out?
What's the matter, lad?
Engine won't start, sir. Full of seawater, I think.
My old grandmother used to say, anything mechanical, give it a good bash.
Thank you, sir.
How did you know that? How did you know that? That's a good catch, good find.
You were saying?
I was told I'd be able to put through a short nose flash on your radio.
My dear fellow, I don't want to appear uncooperative.
Look,
Yes, I know all about the power of the press, but this line happens to be rather busy.
I don't want to put through.
Down, Winston. Down, Winston.
This is a great movie.
The answer is no.
Is this the whole movie on here? Wow. So I have to click the link to get right to that part. 180 seconds in. Thank you. You even gave me the time code.
Damn traitors! What's the matter?
Okay, so I have to back up to there. That's good. Right after damn traitors.
Damn traitors!
Okay. I'll play that on the show. Great movie. Went to when I was in
Channel 7
to the World War II Museum, which is a really great museum, and of course they have a whole thing on D-Day, and very good. The Time in Bakava, huh? Is there a link to that? It might be on the wiki. Here, start your recorder. I'll play it right now. And then I'm going to go to the bathroom. music, sound effects, the time. You want the short one or the long one?
The time is now 2 a.m. in Bakava, Belgian Congo.
No. The Harlem Shake? Should I go look for it on the...
Or not technique, I know you mean. I want to do it before Twit.
Is it a dance?
Yes.
Throwing rocks with the other hand?
No. It's
Mystery Guitar Man.
days old.
Well, how about if I just search for Harlem Shake, huh? You're so funny. This one or that one?
No, the other one. That one.
Harlem Shake is a popular style of hip-hop dance and the title of a 2012 heavy bass instrument track produced by Bauer. So should I play a video here? Is this it?
So that's the original. It's not as funny.
As this one?
No, that's a thing of that one. Do that one.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Harlem Shake. Oh, wait a minute. I saw it like in Gadget or some office doing this, right?
Con los terroristas.
Yeah, I saw this. Yeah, I saw some tech office doing it. So we should record one, is what you're saying? So you start by one guy just dancing, and then everybody's like working, and then all of a sudden everybody's dancing. Okay. That's good. Now, where did I see? I saw... See, it was incomprehensible to me what they were doing and why it was funny. It was this one. It was... no, this is College Humor.
It might be the IGN office. Like, there's
It was some magazine or something, yeah. So you start just not moving, just doing one person and everybody's working. And then... And you all have to be doing something interesting. Okay. Is it funny? All right, HarlemShake.me. Yeah, let's do it before Twit. Is anybody in studio with us?
3 people.
All 3 of them? But one of us has to wear a wrestling mask. Oh, wait a minute. I have my anonymous mask. That would be better. To me, I don't find this amusing. But if you find this amusing, I'm willing to... No, I think we should do it. Is it funny? It's not funny to me. It's Dada. It's very Dada. Yeah, I can see my son doing it. Yeah. No signal on the humor detector, Captain. I'm getting no signal. But Chad is a young person. And if he says it's funny... Hey, have I talked about Ting? Ting to Ting? Let's talk about Ting. All right, chat room, what is Ting? Anybody? Bueller? Trust Chad's instincts. Ting Tang, Walla Walla, Bing Bang. It's your phone company, J.C. Calhoun. Leo's Little Helper's close. Ting is a precursor to Tang. Ting is, simply put, a no BS mobile phone service. How about that? That's it. That's it. Now we're talking. If you visit techguy.ting.com, you'll get the scoop. Ting is technically an MVNO. That's a mobile virtual network operator. I know that's meaningless. What they do is they take Sprint service and they resell it, but they do it right. They put the word service back in Sprint service. So go to techguy.ting.com and find out what Ting is. I would start at the plans tab here. just to get a sense. First of all, there's no contract. It's month to month. There's no early termination fee. There is no bundling or ride-along services. There are no overage charges or penalties. So you start by selecting how many phones you want. $6 a month per phone. Let's say it's a family of 4. Okay? So we're going to get 4 phones. How many minutes for the family of 4? Let's share 1,000. It doesn't really matter what you pick here, and I'll explain why. 1,000 text messages, 3 gigabytes of data. Total cost of that, $107 a month for the whole family, for 4 people. Now, if you use fewer minutes, they rebate the difference. Use 500 minutes, they give you $9 credit. Use more minutes, they charge you at the same rate. They don't penalize you. So essentially, when you're picking these plans, you're just saying, I think I'm going to use that, so you can get an idea of what it should cost. But no matter what, they will rebate you the difference. They'll give you credit on unused service. They will not penalize you for overages. They just charge you at the same rate. So there's no surprises. And what do you get for free? Voicemail, caller ID, 3-way calling, call forwarding. Most importantly, you get tethering and hotspot free. It's part of the deal. And great phones, too. Now, I have to tell you, because it's not subsidized, there's no early termination fee, you're going to pay the full price for these phones, although we're going to give you $25 off your first Ting device if you visit techguy.ting.com. But you get your choice. You want a Galaxy Nexus, you want a Galaxy S3, you want my recommendation, the phone I use, the Galaxy Note 2. You'll be paying a good, this is actually less than I paid for it, even before the discount. And it's month to month. It's yours. Is such a great solution. They also have a very powerful online control panel for your account. No-hold customer support. Excellent online support, too, at help.ting.com, including active customer forums, video tutorials, startup guides. Go to the savings calculator. Put in your current bill and compare it. It's going to save you hundreds of dollars a month, especially if you're a small business or got a family. You buy your mobile device. You'll get it in 2 to 5 business days. You activate it with Ting. You can port your existing number if you want. Ting is great. Ting's the thing. Techguy.ting.com. Now do you know what Ting is? Now you know what Ting is. Tech Guy. Oh, yeah. By the way, BYOD as well on some devices. But you can buy used devices. Actually, this is a good idea. So you can really save some money. For the kids. Get them a used one, right? It's a Galaxy S2. You know, something like that. Techguy.ting.com. Try it. Do it. Live it. Be it. Ting. They do have a BYOD. If you read up on it, it's right now, they just started doing it. Right now, it's very limited to a certain number of devices. But if you read the Ting blog, they are going to do Windows Phone, too. And I think they're working on the iPhone.
This is Premier Channel 7.
These are AKG
from Premier Radio Network.
K240s, and these are the reference standards. So there's a K240 Studios. They're not necessarily the headphones I would recommend. A lot of studios use these, though. They're very comfortable. It's probably the main reason. They're accurate, but they're very comfortable. I like, somebody recommended, and I've been very happy with.
You're tuned to Premier
what were they? The German.
Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy, will begin at 6 minutes past the hour. From
my headphones? Whose headphones? A lot of headphones are ripoffs. Because it's very profitable, and people can't tell the difference, right? So it's a very profitable
Premier Channel 7
area. That's why you see so many headphones at CES, because you can make headphones. If people aren't used to listening in good headphones, they all got earbuds. Anything sounds good. Oh, the headphones on my visitor's shirt. Those look like Beyerdynamic headphones, actually. Pretty sure those are Beyers. The most uncomfortable headphones made. But they're German, so you will like them. Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. And it's time to talk computers and the internet, cell phones and camcorders, home theater, digital photography, too. Chris Marquardt, our photography guru, joins us at 33 and a half after the hour to talk about photography and to give you an assignment. Somebody in our chat room found this from the 1962 movie about World War II, actually about D-Day, called The Longest Day, that confirms my belief that sometimes whacking something will fix it.
What's the matter? Can't you get your finger out? What's the matter, lad?
Engine won't start, sir. Full of seawater, I think.
My old grandmother used to say, anything mechanical, give it a good bash. Try now.
It worked! It worked! Anything mechanical, give it a good bash. Your grandmother was smart. This is 1944, and they must have known that digital was coming. Anything mechanical, give it a good bash. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 8888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. Outside the U.S., Skype or some other voice over the internet program will work just fine and still cost you nothing because it's a toll-free call in the U.S. You can also visit our website, techguylabs.com. Put a link there to the macworld.com article by Chris Breen, Rating the Mac Pro. Let me talk a little bit about what RAID is, because it's a useful technology. It stands for Redundant Array of Inexpensive, sometimes they say intelligent. It's unknown what the I stands for. I'm going to say inexpensive disks. The idea being you can combine multiple disks, 2, 4, or more, into an array that looks like a single disk to the operating system. Now, there are a couple of different ways to do this, and our caller mentioned spanning versus what I call redundancy or mirroring. Bobby, you still there? Actually, he's still there, so we can continue to talk. Yeah, so the idea is I don't recommend spanning, because what it does is it makes your drives much more vulnerable to failure. If you have all of your data striped or spanned across multiple drives, yes, you get one. Let's say you have 2 single terabyte drives. You stripe them. Now it looks like a 2 terabyte drive, but it's what my friend Alex Lindsay calls scary RAID, because if either of the 2 drives fails, everything's gone. And because you've now got 2 drives, you're twice as likely to fail. 4 drives, you're 4 times as likely to fail. So scary RAID is not my general recommendation. There's also mirroring, which would take the 2 drives and duplicate them. So one drive, every time you write to one drive, the same exact data is written to the second drive. That way, either one of them fails, you still got an exact duplicate. Even that's not my favorite. My favorite is something called RAID 5, and there are higher levels of RAID as well. We just talked about RAID 0 and RAID 1. RAID 5 uses, it requires at least 3 disks. Usually you'll see 4 or more. And some portion of that total space is reserved for redundancy, so that if any of the 4 drives fails, you just pop in another drive and you've lost nothing. So that's my preferred form. And the way you do it on the Mac Pro is with the program, the free program that comes with OS 10 called Disk Utility. But I do want you to read Chris's article. It's a fairly long, it's a few thousand-word article that discusses all of this, the pros and cons, the different kinds of RAID, and then walks you through the process using Disk Utility.
Okay, so that's something that I can do with the software I already have.
You got everything you need. It's built in, and this is true now on almost all computers. They have in BIOS or in the operating system a way to do RAID. And the nice thing about the Mac Pro, one of the reasons people buy the Mac Pro is it has all those disk bays. What is it, like 6 disk bays? It's very easy to add drives.
Right, right.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Leo. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I'm sorry we had to keep you on hold even a little longer, but the link will be in the show notes at techguylabs.com, or you could just Google Macworld Rating the Mac Pro. Chris is great. Now, this is from a few years ago, but the nice thing is that it still applies, and the Mac Pro hasn't really been updated in some time anyway. Lois in Tyler, Texas. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, I've got a problem with my content advisor and my Internet Explorer.
Okay.
There's about 6 of us using the computer.
Yeah.
And there was about 3 children and 3 adults. And someone's put a password on the content advisor, and I can't get into my Internet Explorer.
So they want that's really annoying. They wanted to protect the kids.
But I don't know what. I don't know what. But
yeah, and now they protected the adults. So this actually does kind of require using registry editor to get rid of it.
Okay.
And are you comfortable using regedit? I'll tell you what. I'll put a link to an article on pchell.com. It's all about Content Advisor. There's a registry key called ratings that's in the software Microsoft Windows current version policies. It's in the policies section. It's called ratings, and you can delete the key in that ratings folder. And
okay.
yeah, you don't. This is complicated, exactly. And running regedit is risky too, because if you accidentally delete something else, you can actually make your computer unusable. So what I'm going to do is put a link at techguylabs.com. I hate to do this. I know people want answers, but this is so complicated, and you got to do it just right, that I think you probably should follow these steps bit by bit. The idea of the Content Advisor is good. In fact, almost all computers are now doing this, where parents can turn settings on in the computer or in the browser that keeps kids from seeing stuff that is inappropriate. Pugmill has also put in our chat room, thank you, Pugmill, an article from Microsoft Answers on how to disable Content Advisor. But I think what you want to do is this first solution, because you don't want to disable it because there's still kids using it. What you want to do is reset the password so that you know what the password is. See, that's what happened. Somebody locked it down and didn't tell her the password, so she can't get in. Kind of frustrating. I wonder if just resetting IE would do it. I bet you still need the password. If it were too easy, see, a kid could just say, oh, yeah, all right, somebody put the Content Advisor on. Let me just reset Internet Explorer. You know, it's funny. Euchre points out, and this might be true, that sometimes this is the kid's revenge. He says, kids tinker with these settings and mess stuff up for their parents. Since the kids know how the computer works, maybe they did that to you. And Tony in the chat room says, well, the I in RAID doesn't stand for inexpensive or intelligent. It stands for independent. You know, I don't know if there's any agreement on what it stands for. It's RAID is RAID. That's all you need to know. Doug in Diamond Bar, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Doug.
Hey, Leo. How you doing?
I'm great. Welcome.
Good, good. Hey, I've got a Seagate free agent desk, and I would like to use that as network-attached storage. Do you or your beloved chat room have any idea how I can accomplish that?
Yeah, the easiest way to do something like that is to buy a router that will support an external disk. Many routers have a USB port. You can plug in the free agent. And because what you do need, in order for it to work as network-attached storage, you kind of need an operating system. A disk that's just sitting out there on the network, you know, what are you going to do? You need, and that's all of these network-attached storage devices I talk about all the time, usually running Linux, a very simple operating system. They're what we call headless. They don't have a keyboard, mouse, or monitor. You control them from another computer that does have a keyboard, mouse, and monitor via the browser. So many routers now, it's easy to find. They're not expensive. Will actually have a USB port for, they call it sometimes disk sharing. It effectively turns that into a NAS. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Pogo plug, that might be a good choice too. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More to come. You know, let me look in Wikipedia, because I've seen intelligent and inexpensive. Independent's interesting, but I hadn't seen it. They're doing it again, raising postal rates. That means the post office is going to be crowded with people. Problem is the genesis of this.
Not you, stamp professional.
Originally, we're done an array of inexpensive discs. Now, it's a retronym.
You print all the postage you need.
Now they've changed it to independent, so maybe that's interesting. This is what Wikipedia says.
Everything you can do at the post office. businesswithstamps.com.
Marketers representing the RAID industry have attempted to reinvent the term to describe a redundant array of independent disks, but it really was inexpensive originally. The idea was to form an expensive large hard drive from inexpensive disks. And so it's the marketers who have decided to call it independent.
To your recipient. You gotta love Stamps.
That makes sense. Because, you know, this comes from a day when a gigabyte or 2 gigabyte hard drive was very expensive. So you'd use inexpensive disks and pair them and bind them together to make a single expensive drive. So I think that it is in fact inexpensive. That was the whole point of it originally. But that has a bad connotation. So if you're in the hard drive industry, you're going to retronym it. There was a standard because it was created by these guys at the University of California, Berkeley in 1987, and they called it inexpensive. So that's, I mean, they're the guys who invented it, right? Here, we'll go back and we'll look at the original's paper. Are you ready? This is the original paper. I think that's definitive now. Inexpensive. And see, the idea was while the capacity of single large expensive disks, or sleds, has grown rapidly, the performance improvement of sled has been modest. Redundant arrays of inexpensive disks, RAID, based on the magnetic disk technology developed for personal computers, offers an attractive alternative to sled. So RAID is the opposite of sled. Single large expensive disk, redundant arrays of inexpensive disks. Case closed. And now I'm going to slurp some chili. Twain is technology without a not important name. Interesting name was the original because Twain is not an acronym, but the retronym for Twain was technology without an interesting name. That's what we called it. You got to remember, I've been around a long time. I've been doing this show for a long time. It's some sort of meta commentary, isn't it? It's because that song is a song Microsoft uses in their ads for Internet Explorer, right? And I think that the crashing computer leading into it has something to some sort of meta commentary. I don't know. We'll find out when we get the playlist from musical director Kyle Benham. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I have concluded the debate over what RAID stands for. We went to Wikipedia. And no, I don't say Wikipedia is the ultimate authority, but it did have a reference back to the inventors of RAID, 3 professors from the University of California's Computer Science Department, David Patterson, Garth Gibson, and Randy Katz. And they named it RAID because it was a solution. It was a replacement for something called SLED, which I had never heard of. SLED stands for Single Large Expensive Disk. And they came up with RAID as an alternative to a SLED, a redundant array of inexpensive disks. It's the opposite. It's a solution that allows you to take, and this comes from the early days of personal computing, 1988, the inexpensive personal computer disk drives of the era, and make them more reliable and larger. So RAID is if you ever get that's good. If you're ever on the Jeopardy and they say it's the opposite of SLED, you can say, "What is RAID, Alex?" and you'll win. And the chances of that happening are virtually nil. Bob in Spring Hill, Florida. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Yeah, hello, Leo.
Hi, how you doing, Bob?
Oh, not too bad. I'm basically away from my home base. I'm from Michigan. I'm down here in Florida. I normally don't listen to you up there.
Are you a snowbird?
I'm at that point now.
You're fleeing the freezing weather of Michigan. I don't blame you one bit. That's why I grew up in Rhode Island. Right now I'd be doing this show under 3 feet of snow. That's why I'm in California.
And maybe have a heart attack to boot.
Yeah, he's trying to shovel it. That's right. Now I'm shoveling other things. What can I do for you today?
Well, I hope you've got. I'm pretty sure you've got the answer. I had on my desktop. I went out and bought a new hard drive. Got a terabyte, and I wanted to basically copy my old hard drive onto the new one, and then continue on with the larger hard drive.
Great idea.
Somewhere along the line, though, I lost my partition, my C drive on the original.
Oh, dear.
So that means I know the data is still there because nothing's been done, no reformatting or what have you of the drive. It's just a matter of how can I get my drive
Well,
back?
unfortunately, losing the partition is more significant than just the data was erased. It's much more difficult to recover a drive once it's been repartitioned.
Or unpartitioned, I guess.
Well, that's unpartitioning is just a repartitioning without a partition. In other words, the traditional disk recovery, the unerased utilities won't work. They work fine as long as the partitioning is the same. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe somebody in the chat room has an idea on this because partitioning you're right, does not overwrite the drive, but it just makes it more difficult. So how do we Debug says losing the partition is really bad. Okay, got it. Doug in Canada says, is that a program, Doug? Test disk? Recover is another one from Piriform. So test disk is a tool to check and undelete partitions. So if the partition was merely deleted, this sounds like a good alternative. It is, I believe, free. It's a test disk from cgsecurity.org. It was designed to help recover lost partitions. So now the problem is you got to be careful because as soon as you start running these tools, you can make things worse, not better.
Right.
So this looks like a good choice, and I thank the chat room for that. They say Red Penguin says not for novices, but it will work. The other one they recommend, and this is a little bit easier to use, is from a company called Piriform, and I do like this, PIRIFORM.com. They make CCleaner, but they also have a program called Recover, RECUVA. And the chat room tells me this. I do know about this for unerasing, but they say this will also work with a damaged partition table. So the issue is once the partitioning has been changed, it becomes a lot more complicated to recover data. So I'd try that test disk. Here's another one from Disk Internals. I've had good results with this company as well. Disk Internals makes something called partition recovery. So there's 3. We'll put a link to all 3 into our show notes at techguylabs.com. The nice thing about test disk, it's free. Okay. Oh, and okay, one more. Thank you, Zendrome, in our chat room, and I've recommended this company before, Ease, EASEUS.com. They make a variety of tools, both commercial and free, and they have a partition restorer as well. So that is apparently free. So there's 4 places you can go. And
okay, the first one is TESTDISC?
K.
DISK?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, try that, Bob. Good luck. That's where you get in trouble. If it had just been formatted, that would be easy. Because unless you do a deep format, it doesn't erase data. Partitioning doesn't either, but for some reason, and I'm not sure why, maybe I'll ask my disk guru, Steve Gibson, when he comes on next hour. But it does make it worse for some reason. You need for these other tools to work, they need to have correct partitioning information, I would guess. But there's 4 different choices for you. Jeff, Woodland Hills, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, how you doing, Leo? It's Jeff here.
Hey, Jeff.
We were both born in the same month and year, but I'm 3 weeks older than you, so I guess
You have seniority. I grant you seniority.
Appreciate that. Okay, the question is on iTunes. I have my iMac. It's an early 08 iMac. It has about a 320 gigabyte drive, which is virtually full with video. So I thought I would put the iTunes library on an external 800 FireWire drive.
Great idea.
The question is 2 questions. First, when I stream it to my Apple TV 3rd generation, am I going to notice a slower speed in the streaming because the 800 FireWire is slower than the internal drive?
It is, but it's fast enough.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, it is fast enough.
Yeah.
And then when I back up, either using Time Machine or Super Duper or something like that, will I be able to back it up, or am I just going to have it by itself, and if the drive fails, am I going to lose everything?
No, in fact, the nice thing about FireWire is you can daisy chain them. You can put another FireWire disc into the back of the first FireWire disc. It will appear as a completely independent disc. It is. And you can back both the internal and the first disc to the third. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Somebody was mentioning this QVC. It is a good deal, but I got to tell you, I don't recommend Windows 8 laptops if they're not touch. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't mention touch. This is not touch. So it's pretty, and it's probably one of the reasons it's cheap, is that nobody wants to sell a Windows 8 laptop that's not touch anymore. I don't recommend that. Windows 8 is so touch-centric that it's less than desirable if you're just going to use a mouse, in my opinion. You know, we had a really interesting Asus laptop, the Tai Chi, which I thought was very interesting Windows laptop because it was a regular laptop. On the other side was the screen. It had 2 screens on the lid, and when you closed the lid, it was a touch screen tablet with Windows 8 Pro. And then you open it was a laptop. And the only reason I dinged it, the only reason I said don't buy it, is the Windows 8 laptop didn't have touch. So you'd be using touch on the tablet. You'd open it up and you'd lose touch. And it's not good. Let's get Chris Marquardt. Thank you.
Already here.
Already there. You're so fast.
I'm already here.
You're here.
Hello,
so
sir.
You were in Hawaii?
No, in Japan.
Japan, Hawaii, it's all the same. You just kept going.
Well, we have 2 things you can choose from. Either we talk about Japan, I have some pictures online for you.
Yes.
Or we do a myth.
Let's do Japan.
Yeah.
If
you go to tfttf.com/Japan01, there's a bunch of pics that you can click through.
Cool. Oh, you saw the snow monkeys.
Of course I did.
How fun.
If you click on the first one, you can just keyboard through them.
Yeah. Good.
Makes a slideshow.
Awesome. That is a great picture.
Cursor right, left.
Right. Cool. We'll do those. I think that's great.
Yeah. And we had an earthquake, and we had a tsunami, and it was very exciting.
Nothing like the Ring of Fire. That's what they call the Pacific Rim, you know. We're the Ring of Fire because it's volcanic all the way around. And
yes,
here in California, there in Japan.
Yep, totally. And it was for us, it was quite scary, but for the Japanese, apparently it wasn't.
Same here.
They're used to that.
It's very weird
Japan,
when the world. No, well, briefly, I was in Nagasaki.
Okay.
I still haven't gone to the mainland, and I really want to go to the mainland.
That was really cool. From every point of view, the culture, the food, the lifestyle, the language.
I can't wait. I want to spend 3 weeks in Japan.
Yeah.
I want to go to Hokkaido. I want to go to Osaka. I want to go to Kyoto, and of course Tokyo. So that's why 3 weeks.
Yeah, you would need that. Yeah. Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, we spent most of those 2 weeks up in Hokkaido.
How fun.
And just a couple of days around the snow monkeys, which are closer to Nagano. And they're cute. It's just interesting the kind of stuff you can get there. We also had to get up really early, which was, well, it was really early, which is completely not my thing, but it worked out. It's easier in a group, you know.
We understand join and local and that, but that's not Leo Laporte something, is it?
Yeah.
This is your show.
I'm sure it is. I've never seen this clock.
Well, it's for the affiliate.
LLU. What is LLU? Leo Laporte?
Yeah, Kyle would know.
Kyle, what does LLU in the clock, program clock, mean?
I have no idea. Are you seeing that on the screen? Or?
No, it's the printed program clock that we just got.
Oh, we've had this.
Oh, I got you.
Hasn't hurt me
Ring of Fire. He's here from the Ring of Fire, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chris Marquardt.
Hello, how's it going?
Chris Marquardt, our photo guy, joins us when he's in town. And in this case, in town means Tübingen, Germany. So I don't even know what that has to do with anything. To talk about digital photography. You were in Japan over the last few weeks.
I was in Japan, yes. I spent 2 weeks in Japan with a bunch of photographers co-hosting a workshop held by Martin Bailey. And we spent 2 weeks shooting wildlife and landscape and experiencing some of the Japanese culture. And it was just brilliant.
I'm so jealous.
It was just fun. It was my first time there. It's really, really good.
The reason Kyle played Ring of Fire, we were talking about this, is they call sometimes the Pacific Rim all the way around the Pacific the Ring of Fire because it's volcanic activity all the way around. And you, in fact, experienced an earthquake and tsunami while you were in Japan in the Ring of Fire.
Yes, absolutely. There was a few days in. There was a 6.4 earthquake.
Oh, that's pretty strong.
Some measurements even went up to 6.9. Where we were, it was only 5.0. But you notice it is that the earth shook for like 5 minutes, right. And
when you're
not that used to earthquakes.
No, the earthquake. The reason earthquakes are really scary is you normally think of the earth as solid and immovable.
Oh yes. The safe thing.
We're heavily kind of conditioned to that. So when it moves, it's not good. It's like this is not supposed to be happening.
It's not good, especially when you are on the 5th floor of a hotel and you just hope that nothing happens. But the Japanese buildings are very, very good with earthquakes. I think some of them they put some of them actually on springs and things
rollers
to make
and things,
sure.
Yeah. No, you're safer in Japan probably just because they've had so many and they're so used to it. And that's why.
And the Japanese were good. The Japanese were good about it. I think nothing really happened. A couple of people fell out of bed, and that was pretty much it. So it was good. And then we had a small tsunami. There was this earthquake at the Solomon Islands, and that's made it into a small tsunami, 50 centimeters. But the warning system was in place. We had announcements over the speaker system and everything. So it was really, really interesting.
The tsunamis are very
the photography was way more fun, obviously.
Well, you went up, I see, and I'm looking at your pictures, and people can look at these at
tfttf.com/Japan01.
Sure, everybody knows that. tfttf.com/Japan01. You know what? We'll put a link in the show notes.
Oh, yeah, put it there.
And actually, these are on iCloud. So these are the snow monkeys of Hokkaido. They are
they're
not baboons?
in Hokkaido. They're in Nagano, which is on the main island. And we spent a couple of days there. Those are Japanese macaques.
Macaques, red faces. And it's really cold, but they found these hot springs, and so they hang. They chill.
Japan is full of these hot springs.
Ring of Fire, that's why, yeah.
Yep, and there's this pool, and they just go there, hang out, and sit in the pool, and just have a good time, pretty much.
Wow. Now, we're looking at some birds now in the snow.
Yeah, these are red-crowned cranes. Apparently, the national bird of Japan.
Crane,
they're just wonderful birds. The wingspan is over 2 meters, so they are really, really big birds, and we photographed them on a field, and we actually spent several days trying to time it right to make sure we get them in the right position. It's the thing about wildlife photography. You spend a lot of time waiting for the right thing to happen.
I think that people underestimate how important patience is for a good photographer.
Patience and timing with wildlife photography. You also want the light to be right. So you have, many cases, you have to be up really early for the sunrise and to get the good light situation. And then landscape in Japan is just amazing up there in Hokkaido.
It all looks like Japanese paintings. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and I took special care to make these pictures as kind of cleaned up, as kind of tidy as possible, because that I kind of connect that with Japanese art.
That's right. In fact, if I look at these pictures of the trees and the snowfield, it really looks almost like Japanese brush paintings. They're very
which reminded me of those brush paintings where you have this scroll and a few brush strokes, and all of a sudden you see like trees and things. This felt pretty much like that.
You could see where their inspiration comes from, can't you? When you say clean it up, you mean in the camera? In composition, you were careful.
It's a clean composition. Most of these pictures have nothing cloned in or out. Some contrast stuff in post-processing, but this is kind of a Zen thing on this picture. Beautiful. Where you have a rock and a bit of a lake with some circles coming up.
Did you throw a stone in?
No, that was there, and the little bubbles came up from under the ground. Probably, I don't know, maybe some methane or something from something underground.
Sulfur gas from the
Or that there were actually hot springs at that lake. That was Kusharo Lake, and they had hot springs there, and which is why a lot of swans are there. And then there are these. The picture you see right now, those are sulfur springs with steam and pretty bad smell coming out of the earth, and lots of smoke and steam.
So we have these in California too. I mean, we're all on this kind of volcanic ring, yeah. Now, these are people in mist. Are these other photographers?
Yes, we were there with an entire group of 14 photographers, and we did a stop there and went out there to shoot those sulfur springs. And then when the wind turned, we were pretty much covered in this foul smell.
Yeah. Hey, no one said it'd be easy.
No, of course not. It was lots of fun. And then
did you bring a very long? This looks like maybe a 200 millimeter lens. Did you bring a?
I brought a 70 to 300 millimeter zoom lens.
Yeah.
On a full frame camera, that is what was kind of the lowest end. Some of the participants had like 600 millimeter lenses, huge big lenses with them.
I see one in the mist there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was almost on the lower end of that. Was still possible to shoot, was still okay to get things, especially like the eagle pictures we had.
It's hard with a very long telephoto lens, though, because movement is difficult. It's big and heavy, but also a slightest movement is going to make a blurry picture. But also, often they are not as bright as the shorter lenses, and you're trying to freeze, movement, so you want to shoot at a high frame rate. So all of this makes it technically very difficult.
And I'm not an exclusive bird photographer. It's probably one of the things I don't do enough, because I had to learn a few things like panning with a moving bird and making sure to keep that in the frame. And
of an eagle or a hawk landing.
That's an eagle, It's a white-tailed eagle.
Gorgeous. And I have to say, I have a good friend, Scott Bourne, who specializes in bird photography. Actually, I have several friends, and it is a very technically challenging
it is.
job.
You see a lot of technology at these sites where photographers are with very long lenses and image stabilization and big tripods and things to make sure you get the best possible thing. The clearest photo, the sharpest photo. You would also shoot with a lot of repetition, very, very fast frame rates, like 10 frames per second, if your camera can do that, so that you have like 10 shots of that bird landing, so you can later pick the right one, because it moves so fast that it's really hard to pick that exact moment.
And so this is going to make amateurs feel a little bit better, because a lot of us amateurs, we look at these and go, gosh, I can't get that picture. There's good reasons why you can't get that picture.
And another thing to make every other photographer feel a bit better about it is that on an average day of these shoots with the birds, I ended up on one day with 1,000 pictures.
And only one good one.
And that's the lower end, and maybe a handful of good ones, and a lot of deleting and a lot of selection work. And some of the photographers with faster cameras, I mean, mine, the 5D Mark II that I use is still very slow. It shoots 3 frames per second, but if you shoot 10 frames per second, you end up with, I don't know, 2,000 pictures in one day.
Marquardt.com. We'll put a link in the show notes to these pictures so you can see them. Thank you, Chris. We'll see you next week.
Next week. Bye-bye.
Beautiful shot. That eagle shot is a killer.
It was really interesting. It was really a good learning experience.
Yeah. Well, it's very difficult. Business is all about communication. Scott Bourne, has this crane, fire cranes in the mist, which is on our wall here, and that's one of my favorite pictures.
I now know where he shot it.
Yes, and he went back there year after year for many years. In his mind, he knew he wanted the shot, and he kept going back, and it took him years to make that picture.
Oh, we didn't get these light conditions. One morning, the one of the cranes in the mist that you see that fly through the mist, that is pretty much that spot. But we had mist. We didn't have any sun shining through.
Yeah.
The mist on the river is actually really beautiful when it happens, but it has to be at a really cold temperature, less than -10 degrees Celsius, because then those hot springs that flow into the river will create this beautiful mist. And then if the sun comes in, the rising sun in the morning shining in from behind, you get this fire kind of sensation there.
So how long you were there? Many days, and you got maybe a dozen pictures. These great pictures.
I would end. These are just a few ones of those. I think I returned with maybe 50 to 60 pictures that I would be.
That's
proud
a good
to
number.
show.
Actually, that's a very good number.
But I shot thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures, especially of the birds.
Yeah,
the monkeys were easier because they can let you come a bit closer, and they're more relatable. They're more human. You look at them, and they have these little fingernails and the faces, and they look at you if you're lucky. And it's easier with them, but with the birds, wow, that is really a technical challenge.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find Scott's cranes in the fire mist. Oh yeah, here it is.
And it's almost a bit disillusioning if you turn around and look how many photographers are waiting
trying to get that shot. And he knew that he wanted that shot of these birds taken off, and went back year after year to get this. I think he said 10 years shooting to get this shot.
Yep, I fully understand that.
And he's a bird photographer. That's what he does.
Right.
Yeah, by the way, he shoots Nikon because of that.
Does he?
Well, because it's faster focusing.
Yeah, maybe you have with the bigger Nikon cameras, you have more possibilities to fine tune them to your style of shooting, to make sure that like things like the speed of focusing versus the accuracy of focus. You can change that with some of those cameras. I think with the Canons, maybe with the 1Ds you can do that too, but with the lower ones you can't.
Yeah.
So they're more adaptive.
You need a 1D. That's what I need.
And then go bird shooting. Absolutely.
Never. All right. Hey, thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Great to see you. You'll be back next week?
Next week.
All right.
Yes, I will be. Assignment review next week.
Oh, I'll mention it. What was the assignment again?
Resolution.
Resolution. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Will do.
All right. Talk to you next
week.
week.
Take care. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Before we get back to the Tech Guy Show, can I tell you about how I get, last week, a good example. You know this, but no one else knew it. I pre-recorded the show, and I did all the tracks ahead of time, right? And I had to share them back with Kyle at the studio, and I used ShareFile. So let me log into my ShareFile account. I'll show you. Now, I could have tried to mail them these or use some sort of a file sharing service. I used to use a well-known one. But the problem with that one was people would delete the files. So that didn't work so well. So we have actually I've already taken off because I sync. And so let me go to the archives of Premiere, and Leo pre-records. So here's all these full files from the Super Bowl show. First of all, they're 100 megs each. A lot of times with email, that'd be a bounce back. If I were in the medical business or some sort of business where federal regulations require me to protect privacy, I'm not going to email those either. There's also, just that security issue. mailing stuff. So ShareFile is HIPAA compliant, secure file sharing that works. Let's say, all right, so I know I have to get this to Kyle. I'm going to actually send him the whole folder. So let me go up. Now, I'm navigating this via the ShareFile website, but I could also do this in email using an Outlook plugin. I even have these are actually local folders, which I use the ShareFile sync. Let me show you that, to automatically synchronize. So these are automatically synchronizing these two folders, the Premiere folder. And so the exact same thing that I'm sharing is here. And it automatically puts it up on the cloud. So here's that same Super Bowl show, the same files. So what I did is I record them, save them locally. They're automatically synchronized in the background up to ShareFile. Now, to send it to Kyle, I check mark that box, and I press the send button. Or as I said, I could do this in Outlook too. And you could actually on the website do an email. I usually just do this. I say, give me a link. It's also good because I can show you now the parameters. There's some really interesting parameters that I can add here. I can say, email me when the file's been downloaded. Require recipients to enter name and email before downloading. I can even limit the access. I could say, it's only good for a day, a month, a year. I could say you can only download it 1 to 10 times or unlimited. So I always, because Kyle, I want to give him as many chances. So I've now set the parameters for this, and I say send files. Now I'm going to get a HTTPS link that I can give to him that has those files on it. You could use this too, if you want to copy it off the screen. Here's what you'll see when you paste it into your browser. He does not need to log in. He does not need to create an account. He'll see this. He presses the download button, and they start downloading. He can also drill down. I can click the link. It's going to make a zip file out of all these, which really helps. And zipping it down. Remember, this is 400 megabytes worth of files. This is such a great way to do it, I got to say. It's going to take a little time to zip these all together. So while that's going on, let me show you the ShareFile website. ShareFile.com. Built for business. And you could try it for free right now, 30 days. You don't need a credit card. You just need our offer code TechGuy. Click that green button that says Start Your Trial. And get in there. Get in there. Make sure you put the promo code in there. TechGuy. And I'm telling you, this is going to change how you share files in business. No credit card needed. Just the offer code TechGuy for a 30-day free trial. Control the files you share. Oh, and by the way, another nice advantage of this, ShareFile gives me access to these files with the ShareFile app. So on my iPhone or Android phone, I can see all the files that have been synced up via ShareFile, all these files, access them, download them, it's cloud storage too, or even share them from the phone. So sometimes I forget. I can get on my smartphone on the way to New Orleans going, oops, I forgot to send those. I did actually do this. I said, maybe I can't remember, Kyle, if I sent you these files or not. So I just did it again through the ShareFile app. ShareFile.com. Use the offer code TechGuy. I'm telling you, you got to try this. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. By the way, Chris does this, and I think it's a really great way. It's not a competition, there's no prizes, but it's a really great way to kind of encourage people to get out there and take pictures. We do a little photo assignment every month. And when Chris comes back next week on the show, he'll be reviewing 3 pictures from our photo assignment. So if you'd like to be one of those 3 pictures, here's the deal. The assignment is resolution, whatever that means to you. It could be resolution as in screen resolution. It could be resolution as a pact, an agreement. Could be anything. So use the word resolution, illustrate it with a photo, tag it with the word resolution, and upload it to Flickr. And Flickr.com, that's a free photo sharing site. If you have a Yahoo account, you already have a Flickr account. But the key is to get that to the Tech Guy group. We have our own group within Flickr. Just search for groups, The Tech Guy, and you'll find it. And get it up there. And I don't know how many pictures we have so far, but there's a good shot you'll get yours reviewed by Chris. It's a great way to, kind of learn. And it's just a good excuse to go out there. 8888 Ask Leo, that's my phone number. Let's get back to the questions. Mike in El Segundo, California. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Leo. Oh, before I get to my main point, I wanted to mention you're talking about people who bang on equipment to get them to work.
Bam!
Yeah, a real case of that I'm aware of that works is with automobiles, the starter motors. Sometimes they kind of seize up. You need to hit them with a mallet or a hammer while having someone crank the key to loosen them up.
There is a problem, not that rare, in hard drives called stiction. And I think it still happens. The head, hard drives have a flying head. They fly just micrometers above the platter, but sometimes they can rest on the platter and adhere. And the fix for stiction is to whack the drive with the handle of a screwdriver.
Oh, so probably the key is not to do it too hard, but hard enough.
Yeah, I'm not recommending it, but I'm just saying.
Anyway, nowadays we have sort of Big Brother government having more and more monitoring of ordinary citizens and people from these so-called smart meters for our electrical utility, where we have electricity coming to our house. So now I've heard there's some kind of black boxes are required in all new cars that apparently would, I guess, spy on motors. I don't know what information is stored in them. I already know in California they use, even with some older cars, they use information for the smog test such that gets stored in memory, such that if your battery goes dead or you take it out to do some service work on your car, then you have to drive your car like 100 or 200 miles. You'll fail the smog test automatically because it's missing the history. Or
that's interesting. Data. Huh.
So I'm wondering now for these new black boxes for automobiles, if you knew anything about them. Obviously, there could be really scary scenarios, like you go register your car and they say, oh, you've been speeding 5,000 times over the last year. You got to pay 5,000 speeding tickets or you can't drive your car anymore. Or even worse, or as bad, maybe they'll say that we'll remotely turn off your car if we don't receive your registration fees or taxes in the mail on time.
Yeah, I don't know how old this is. It's called OBDC, the Onboard Diagnostics.
I think this is something newer than that.
This is newer than that because this has been on many cars for years. You can actually buy an OBDC plug that you plug into the port, which is usually under your steering wheel, and you can read much of that same data yourself.
And you can reset the check engine light also, I believe.
Oh, there's a lot more you can do. Usually the check engine light's the least of it.
Okay.
So the OBD has been around. OBD2, which is the current standard, according to TechList in the chat room, started in 1996.
Yeah, I've heard there's something new requiring new cars, and I haven't searched the internet yet. I thought maybe you knew about it.
Well, I don't want to get, it's easy to get paranoid. Look, the truth is, and you don't even need special devices on your car. There's cameras everywhere. Internet traffic is in all likelihood being monitored. Certainly federal law enforcement agencies like the FBI have asked internet service providers to record traffic. There has been some movement in Congress to require that. It isn't currently required, but many internet service providers do it anyway. If the FBI asks, a lot of people just say, yeah, sure, whatever. These boxes sit in there. We learned, thanks to a whistleblower not so long ago, that the major cell phone and telephone companies, AT&T in particular, was allowing the NSA to put equipment into their central offices monitoring all traffic. The NSA is building a large facility right now that is designed to, because as you might imagine, they're getting quite a bit of data from all of this, that's designed to filter this data and look at it. The excuse given, and the Patriot Act is the legislative arm of this. The excuse given is since 9/11, we've got to be very proactive about terrorism, and the Patriot Act has given the government a lot of. I mean, this is not paranoia. This is fact. Has given the federal government a lot of leeway to do this.
Right. I had a case a number of years ago where I was using Earthlink at the time, and all of a sudden, emails I deleted several years ago reappeared in my mailbox. I suspected one of their servers went down, and they restored it from backup, and it turned out that here were multiple-year-old emails of mine I thought I deleted, and they were,
Yeah, I mean, it's so. Look, look. You might as well just accept it's a given that at this point, and it's something we should fight, but it is a given that currently law enforcement and both the federal, state, and even local governments have enormous leeway to spy on us, as do private industry, because if you use Facebook or Google, you're in effect giving them permission in order to use these free services to collect information about you as well. It is very difficult to avoid this. you'd have to effectively go off grid. You could only pay cash for things. You'd have to. It'd be a very difficult thing to do. I don't know. It is good to be aware of this. It's certainly good to lobby your member of Congress to limit this. There is a link, thanks to the chat room, at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is a wonderful group that is doing everything they can to, their tagline is defend your rights in the digital world. They have an article that came out just a few days ago, Black Boxes in Cars. They're talking about the event data records. That is different than the OBD computer. This event data recorder records the last several seconds of vehicle and driver data before a crash, ostensibly for use by crash investigators. The vast majority of new cars sold in the U.S. have these black boxes. Now, the EFF is not a paranoid organization. This is these guys are very serious, and I trust them absolutely. So the question is, what are the rules? The proposed rules for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration that would mandate EDRs in all new cars are open for public comment through tomorrow. So what I would recommend, if you have an opinion on this, is to submit a comment online. You don't have to be a lawyer or an engineer. You can submit anonymously. Should the NHTSA allow or even require EDRs in all new cars? Regulations.gov is a website that's been set up for you to read the documents and make your comments, and they encourage it. Whether they'll pay any attention to it is another matter entirely. So I'm going to give you a link to this in the chat. The chat room has the link, but I will put it on the show notes to this EFF discussion. The NHTSA states its agency policy to treat EDR data as the property of the vehicle owner, but EFF says they should go farther. They should go farther to protect privacy. There should be a cap on the amount of data. The proposed rule sets a minimum duration of 5 seconds prior to a crash for the recording, 15 required and 28 optional data elements, but there is no maximum duration specified. And considering how much storage you could put in these things inexpensively, it could be hours, days, weeks, months. So I would read up on this. You're absolutely right. I mean, I don't want to encourage paranoia, Mike, but on the other hand, this stuff is actually happening. And maybe it is time for us to get involved. And frankly, I'm a little more worried about the stuff they don't open to public comment, to be honest. This is what we know. This is what we know. And we know the Patriot Act allows them to do all sorts of things, and furthermore makes it illegal to disclose this if you find out about it. So I think we live in a world where privacy really is secondary, unfortunately. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, I'm glad he called. I didn't know about this, and tomorrow's the last day. They want to make it mandatory in all cars. They're setting up for the Harlem Shuffle. Muir Woods is the best place for redwoods. It's in a little bit north of San Francisco, but it's wonderful. Highly recommend it. That's your chat room question. Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. We're talking computers, we're talking the internet, we're talking smartphones and home theater, digital photography at 8888 Ask Leo, 8888-275-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. The website is techguylabs.com. From the website, you can get a link to our chat room if you'd like to hang out there. Crazy people there. Lots of fun. techguylabs.com. And somebody in the chat room said, what is that 737 There's a glass paperweight that I have on my desktop here. You can kind of see if you watch the video of the show. What is that 737, they said? Well, I'll tell you. If you look really closely, you could say it says Google in there. This is a reservation number for the next big thing, at least what Google hopes will be the next big thing, Google Glass. I think it's the next dorky thing. But Larry Page is wearing these, or no, it was Sergey Brin wears these everywhere he goes, one of the founders of Google. In fact, there's a funny picture from a couple of weeks back of Sergey riding the New York City subway wearing these glasses. And if you just look, quick glance, they look like regular glasses. But if you look more closely, you see that over one eye, there's kind of extra stuff. It's a device. It's a wearable computer. And apparently there's a little display in there that you can look at that's connected to your Android phone that'll tell you things about what you're looking at. I think it's perhaps, and I think it has a great chance to be completely stupid. That's the most likely outcome. But it's Google, so maybe it won't be. Anyway, I paid well, in theory, I paid $1,500 for that. They haven't charged me. They were giving these out at the Google Developers Conference last year. And they said, well, if you promise us you'll pay $1,500, we'll give you a reservation number, but we don't have to pay till the thing comes out. And my prediction is the thing will come out and they'll say, oh, we just wanted to make sure you really wanted it. We're not going to charge you anything. We'll see. We'll see. Everybody's talking about wearable computing. That seems to be the buzzword this year. But understand, it's not driven by user need. I'm not demanding it. It's driven by the deep-rooted need from companies like Apple and Google to find the next big thing quick before the other guy does. And at some point, you just start making stuff up. You go, we'll wear them. How about that? Yes, make them in the glasses or the wristwatch or so. I'm skeptical. But, I've been wrong many times before. So I celebrate these companies taking a chance, spending millions, in some cases billions of dollars in R&D and research and development on new ideas, desperately seeking the next big thing. I don't know if Google Glass is it, but I got my reservation. But it's not for me, you understand. It's for you. I do it for you. This is my job. Because what if it is the next big thing? Actually, just as importantly, if it's not, I need to tell you. I need to say, well, I've tried the Google Glass, and it's stupid, or it's amazing. That's what we do here. Jack in Orange, New Jersey, West Orange, New Jersey, as opposed to East Orange, New Jersey. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Jack.
Good, sir. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
My big corporate internet service provider recently told me that I could get double my current internet speeds if I allowed them to send me a newer modem and I mailed them the old one.
Yes.
I don't know what I would do with the 50 megs down. I just narrate audiobooks. But anyway, they said that if I do take them up on this, they'd be forced to disconnect something they noticed that I did that's been working for a couple of years, actually. I bought and have been running a second cable modem and a router for a wired connection for a computer on the other side of the house.
Oh, that's interesting. And that worked?
Well, it's not supposed to, but it did.
So this is a cable company, and they're trying to get you to move to DOCSIS 3, is my guess. DOCSIS is a way of, it's a structure for cable modems to communicate back to the home office. And so they need a DOCSIS server on one end. It stands for Data Over Cable Service Interface Specification. They need a DOCSIS server on their end, and you need a DOCSIS 3 modem on your end, and then they can increase the speed. That is true. And it's just an excuse for them to turn off this other modem.
Right. But then I had like an epiphany, because don't you pay an ISP, or shouldn't you, for the megabyte, not the number of connections?
Yeah, that seems fair. My guess is what would happen is what I would suggest is disconnect that extra modem you put on there. Get the new modem. Wait a little while. And reconnect that second modem. It may be that modem's not DOCSIS 3, in which case you would want to go to the store. Get an ARRIS, ARRIS, DOCSIS 3 modem. They're not very expensive, and use that instead. The other option, of course, is to not have a second cable modem, but merely to get wires somehow to that other side of the house, whether it's power line networking or Ethernet in the wall. Or
Yeah, I'm going to have to run a 100-footer on the floor, I think.
Are you Wi-Fi? Do you use Wi-Fi?
I do, but this one computer was really like 100 feet away, and there's some cell phone extender that needs to be near a window, so it's quite a distance.
Yeah. You can, there's some, it is possible with a Wi-Fi router to buy an intermediate repeater, kind of halfway repeater that boosts the signal. Not very expensive. That might work too. 100 feet's not that long.
No. Gotcha. Okay.
So there are other solutions. I think you will benefit greatly by having a DOCSIS 3 modem, so I would encourage you to go along with that.
Okay, I'll look into it.
Yeah, it really makes a big difference. In fact, I beg for it. We had, it's not unusual because, as I mentioned, the cable company has to put DOCSIS 3 servers in, so they have older servers. They don't want to throw them out. They want to keep using them. So if a customer doesn't complain or say anything, they may not do it. They may just keep you on your old system. Until they're ready to retire that extra server. Maybe it wore out or it's too old. So I actually had to beg. We had an old system. I wanted faster speeds. I knew I wasn't DOCSIS 3, so I said, hey, can we get a DOCSIS 3 server? And fortunately, I found somebody at Comcast who liked me, and they upgraded us. I think they'd already upgraded the node in the area, and I think it was just a question of allowing us to do it. But that's nice. And I think Zendrome is right when he says in the chat room, DOCSIS 3 gives the ISP more control over what's going on. So it is in their interest to do it, and that's probably why they called you, Jack, and said, hey, can we switch you over? May also have something to do with the fact that they'd like to get that second modem off of there. Larry in Northridge, California, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Larry.
Leo, help me out. I'm trying to understand an issue here.
Okay.
My wife and I do a lot of cruising during the years. And I've noticed lately, every time I get on the boat, my cell phone, even though it's fully charged at 8 o'clock in the morning,
right,
when I get on that ship by 5 o'clock that evening, that battery is totally dead.
Absolutely. It's seeking. So when there isn't a cell signal, the phone can, when it says searching?
Yeah.
That sucks the battery dry.
Okay.
So what you would just want to turn, when you're at sea, when you're away from a cell signal, just turn off cell service. You could do that in the settings of your phone. And it will stop looking for it. It'll just turn into a Wi-Fi device like a, iPod Touch. And it will...
Okay. I was just curious. Any other time, the battery will last for 4 days.
Right. Same thing happens in an airplane. In fact, it's worse in an airplane because as you're passing over cell towers, it's acquiring and struggling, and it can just kill the battery. So you absolutely... It's a simple setting. Just turn off cell data, cell signal. Say you can go into airplane mode. That'll do it, too.
Okay. I knew you'd have the answer for it. You have everything.
Hey, I'm just jealous you get to cruise that much.
Me too.
I love cruising. We're going this fall. We're going to go on a European cruise in September. I can't wait. Where's your favorite destination?
Alaska probably.
Beautiful. I've done an Alaska cruise. Gorgeous up there. Thanks, Larry. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're going to Venice in September, and then we're cruising the Greek islands and ending in Istanbul, Turkey. I don't know what kind of accent that is. Generic Eastern European. Hey, let's face it, we're all trying to save money these days. We're all trying to find the best value for the buck. And when I think about value, man, the first thing that comes to mind... A DOCSIS 3 modem on a DOCSIS 2 plan still has benefit for customers. That's interesting. So it would be worth buying a new modem even if you weren't on a DOCSIS 3 switch. You'd get some benefit. That's good to know. Sorry, I'm going to go cough. It's the Love Boats. Yes. There's something about being on a boat. I don't know what it is, but I just like it. Alex is in Long Island, New York. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, good. I've been a big fan of yours.
Thank you.
Since Tech TV.
Yes.
What an honor it is to talk to you.
Well, it's my privilege. What can I do for you?
I'm running a 2008 Mac Pro tower with Mountain Lion on it.
Okay.
And periodically I get a lot of what they call the beach ball.
Yeah.
And it's when Finder goes down, I lose my Ethernet connection, and I'm running FiOS up here.
Yeah, you really don't want the Finder to crash. So that's what's beach balling is your Finder?
Yeah, it could be Safari, it could be Mail, it could be, and then when I go up to where the Apple is on the top left, it beach balls, and the whole bar by the clock beach balls.
This is the one really ugly thing that Macintoshes do. This beach ball of death, we call it. And what it really means is that something is stuck. And when it happens to the Finder, which is the base, kind of, it's like for Windows, it's the Explorer. It's the thing that lets you look at the desktop, look at files, look at folders. When it happens in the Finder, it really kind of messes everything up.
Yeah.
Now, it's not supposed to happen. The question is why it's happening to you.
That's the thing. I'm looking to try to at least get a starting point to troubleshoot why it's...
Well, it could be so many different things. It is now a almost 5-year-old computer. It could be that the hard drive is getting a little flaky. If the operating system is having a hard time reading the hard drive, it will beach ball until it can read the key information it needs, and that could be forever. So that's one possibility, but it's only a possibility. It could also be that some key system file is malfunctioning. It could be a hardware problem. Besides being a hard drive, it could be a power supply or a bus problem. I mean, that's the thing is I can't tell just from the fact that it's beach balling that's what's wrong, but it's obvious something is wrong. It should not happen.
Right. It's just very frustrating. Like, I'll be getting my stock data through Parallels, on a Windows VM.
Yeah.
And I'll lose my connection and my real-time...
You're down. Well, I wonder, beach balling should not necessarily knock out your internet connection, which makes me think that they're related.
Yes.
So that would be now the next thing. And you said you have FiOS, so it's coming in via Ethernet.
Right. It's Cat 6. I have Cat 6 all over the house.
How nice.
Yeah.
That's the high-speed Ethernet cabling.
150 megabits down by 70 up.
Oh, don't make me cry. FiOS is fabulous. They stopped rolling it out, and it's depressing.
Yeah, actually, now they have a 300 megabit tier, and I think later this year they have to go to a 1 gigabit tier.
Wow.
So,
this is all in response to Google, of course, which is providing gigabit internet in Kansas City and threatens to roll it out in other parts of the country. The problem with FiOS is it's so expensive per customer that Verizon can't really afford to continue to offer it. It costs so much to trench out to each and every one of you.
Oh, sure.
They stopped doing the build-outs. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure what's wrong with your computer, honey. I think that the best thing you could do at this point would be perhaps to try a new hard drive. Okay. You might, but it's hard to say. Here's what I would, you obviously got a lot of money. So and this is important stuff. You're a day trader. Is that what you're doing?
Well, yeah, I'm experimenting.
Yeah, so this is something. This is not just a computer for fun. This is a computer for profit. So it's worth getting this right. So one thing you might do is get a new hard drive. It is a Pro. It's easy to swap a hard drive in and redo the operating system. Don't just copy the old operating system over. This will kill two birds with one stone. If it's a hard drive issue, it'll fix that. If it's an operating system issue, a corrupt file or a flaky file, it'll fix that.
Okay.
If it doesn't fit, and that's not expensive, we're talking $100 here. And not a bad idea. You could take that old hard drive, get an external enclosure for it, or you know what? The nice thing about a Mac Pro, you got plenty of drive bays. Just keep it in the computer as a backup drive.
Yes, yes.
So not such a big deal, but I would suggest doing a fresh install on the new drive just to kind of see if that's the issue. If it continues to happen, then you have to look at other hardware issues, motherboard, power supply, other things. CR1 says, if you're just starting out in day trading, the best gift in the world is a broken computer. In other words, stop! Good luck, Alex. Good luck. It's hard. This is one of those things where there's not enough information to fully diagnose, but there's some things to think about. Barstow, California. John on the line. Hey, John, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, how you doing today? Great show.
Thank you.
Well, my problem is Windows XP. I was...
Say no more. I can see what your problem is right now. No, go ahead.
I know. Time to buy a new computer.
Time to get a new operating system anyway, yeah.
Well, I was streaming the Super Bowl. Is when my problem started, okay?
Oh, you must be a Niners fan, too.
Yeah.
That was... Okay, go on. I'm sorry. Enough joking. I'm going to listen to your question now.
As it was streaming, and then I was streaming off of the website that had it on broadcast television.
Right.
A pop-up popped up and said it was from the Justice Center.
Oh, you got the Money Pack virus.
Right.
Yeah, that's nice.
So then my next step was to go to another computer and find out what the virus was.
So you've read all about the FBI Money Pack virus. This is a form of what we call ransomware. They hold your computer up for ransom. They say if you pay us $300... By the way, it's funny because they say, we're the FBI, and we've noticed you've been doing something illegal on your computer. You could go to jail, but instead, we're going to get you to go to 7-Eleven, pick up some money packs, which is effectively wire transfer money, and transfer us $300 because the FBI always does that. That's obviously it's obviously a virus, and you've found that out. You've probably also seen the removal instructions.
Right, so that's what I did. I went into the save mode, and I found it. It was stuck in my startup menu. Okay.
Well, maybe it was. I mean, you were streaming this not from CBS.com. You were streaming it from another site.
No, it was CBS.com.
Oh, it was? All right, good.
Yeah.
So it's unknown where you got this. But what's also unknown, and I always have to say this, is what else you got. So you don't know. That's exactly right. So when a virus gets on your system, all that tells you is my system has been compromised. It doesn't tell you how deeply or how quickly and easily you can fix it. And the worst case scenario is, oh, yeah, I just went into start mode and I eliminated the FBI money pack and everything's fine. And meanwhile, you've got a Trojan horse on your system, a keystroke logger, all sorts of stuff that you don't know about. That's the problem. So the best advice I can give you, the true advice that any security expert would tell you, is it's time to, I hate to say this, erase the computer and start over from a known good copy of Windows.
Okay.
That would be the prudent advice. But you probably, with any luck, that's all you've got. You can remove it. It's not hard to remove. And what I would do is remove it, make sure you have an up-to-date antivirus, scan it as best you can, and cross your fingers. Steve Gibson, our security guru, coming up with a big problem. You stay tuned. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. That money pack virus is everywhere. Just everywhere. Hey, Steve.
Hey, my friend.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Everybody's got infections, and they all call you.
And the money pack one is, this is like the third call in this weekend I've got. I mean, this one is everywhere.
Wow.
And, it's funny because everyone knows it's a virus. It's not, the FBI doesn't ask you to get a money order from 7-Eleven. So that's, it's pretty obvious. But
yeah, it's like the Nigerian prince. You got to wonder, maybe there are people who
believe it,
who really want to. Yeah, it's like spam. Who's going to respond to like really ridiculous spam? But apparently,
well, the thing that worries me a little bit is it's very easy to remove. So A, I'm wondering why all of a sudden people are getting this thing, and B, is it really that easy to remove? Because maybe, if you're, I'm giving maybe too much credit to these guys, but if I were them, I would put a easy to remove superficial virus on the machine at the same time as I put a mysterious rootkit on there.
Exactly.
And so that's why I always say, So we will do the UPnP thing.
Yeah. I've seen that you've mentioned it twice because I saw the effects once toward the end of the show yesterday, and then, of course, once earlier around 11 at the beginning of the show around 11:15, I think.
Yep.
And my site handled it, which is nice.
I handled it beautifully. I was very impressed. Yeah, you didn't even slow down.
Well, remember, I went through the DOS nightmare.
Right.
for quite a while, and I built some seriously strong defenses and capabilities into handling it. So, yeah. We'll just amplify what you've said. And it looks like yesterday, from your mention, about 200 of your listeners had their routers exposed.
That's a high number.
I looked at the number before.
It's a much
after.
higher percentage than from the Security Now crowd.
Oh, yes. And it's not surprising, but so it means that this is useful to your listenership.
But what's problematic is I don't know what turning off PNP UPnP isn't necessarily a fix, right, or not?
We do know that, as you said earlier, there are some routers where if you disable it in the user interface, it remains exposed on the WAN side.
Right. Can you name names? Can you name brand names and stuff, or is it?
I just haven't even been bothering.
Too many of them. Yeah.
My feeling is that since any exposure is bad, I don't want to give anyone a sense of like, oh well, I'm exposed, but I've got one of the safe routers.
Right.
It's like, there's no such thing as an exposed safe router.
Right.
It's a service, and we're up to 22 different IPs that I am seeing now wandering around the internet looking for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I have a 64 IP.
So you're also monitoring people who are looking for these.
Yep, I have a 64 IP network that is just like no traffic, never used. It's my honeypot, and I started monitoring it when this all happened and collecting the IPs, unique IPs that are looking, and we're up to 22 different IPs.
Wow.
So it's not just a theoretical, oh, well, maybe someday people will start looking. No, they're looking now.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Steve Gibson is our computer security guru. He hosts a podcast on my Twit network called Security Now. And he came up with such a severe, scary... We've had him on from time to time, but only when there's something really awful out there. This one may be the worst thing I've ever heard of. And the problem is, and I mentioned this before, you're not going to see coverage of it in mainstream media because it's just too geeky. Steve, welcome.
Hey, Leo. Great to be with you.
I call him the explainer-in-chief because he's good at explaining this stuff, but this is a challenge even for you, Steve, to explain.
Well, the short version is there is a means for devices in our home or small office, the Soho, to talk to each other and also to reach out onto the public internet and request access to what's on the public internet. That was denied when we all started using these NAT routers to have multiple computers in our homes.
It used to be you'd put your computer right on the internet directly. But
exactly.
as people wanted to share their internet access, they started getting routers.
Right. And one of the benefits is the sort of a built-in benefit of a router is it's a firewall. Any traffic that is trying to get to your network from the outside that isn't traffic you initiated from the inside by like asking for something on a website, for example, the router just ignores it. It throws it away. It blocks it. It hits the wall, and that's it. So that's been a real benefit that people have had, and we're relying on that. What was discovered a couple weeks ago by a security researcher who deliberately scanned the entire internet, all 4.3 billion IP addresses that we have now, looking for a theoretical vulnerability.
They did this for 6 months, too. It wasn't a...
Yes.
They really took their time doing it.
Yes, from last July through the middle of November of 2012, they did a complete analysis of the exposure, and they were stunned themselves by how many routers they found. 81 million regular people routers are vulnerable. What's happened is due to a mistake that was made in the software, which most of the routers all got from the same place. They've identified like 4 sets of software, all the various router manufacturers, about 1,600 different manufacturers, started with the same software. So they all sort of have the same mistake for the same reason. And that mistake is that what should only be exposed for use inside the network is being exposed for use on the public internet, which is what these security researchers found. This is the 81 million number they came up with. And what it means in practical terms is that when malicious hackers find those same 81 million routers, they're able to talk to the router in a way that only the owner, the private owner, is supposed to, and essentially open it up and gain access to people's interior private networks.
Can they then do damage? I mean, what can they do once they're in?
Well, this is why it's expected to be very highly exploited, is they can have a field day. Everyone's late model televisions are on their network, and their entertainment systems, and their cameras, and webcams, and all their computers, and this is, we're all networked now at home with increasing levels of connectivity. All of that is available to hackers through this universal plug and play, as it's called, this UPnP exploit.
Now, it's unfortunately many thousands of router brands. It's from hundreds of different manufacturers. Such a long list that I can't give the list of safe routers or unsafe routers. Steve has set up a test, though, that you can use at grc.com. He's had this test for a long time, Shields Up.
Yes, I even made it easier to get to as a consequence of this. Just grc.com/shields up. And that URL will take you directly into the system. You don't have to go.
And I can assure you, this is safe. This isn't going to do anything. And when you press the proceed button, you'll see a big button that says, "Okay, go ahead and test my router." It says GRC's Instant UPnP Exposure Test. Press that yellow button, and what you hope for is a green response that says this equipment did not respond to our probes. That means that your router does not have that flaw. But Steve, as you've recorded on here, over 1,200 routers who have tried this test have had that flaw. What should they be doing?
Well, this is one of the big problems, is that we haven't really yet seen a response from the router manufacturers. And in fact, many people have old routers that are no longer being maintained by the manufacturers. This is truly a danger. The first thing you can try to do is to turn this off, because routers come with it turned on, this UPnP turned on.
And we've spoken about this. You should always have it off. There's really, it's a security flaw anyway.
So if you knew you should have had it off, but you never bothered to turn it off, now is definitely a good time
you
to
do that in the router settings, and you'll have to look at your manual to find out how to do that. But generally, you do it through a browser on your computer.
Right. We have seen some instances, some reports of people turning it off and it not going off. So you'll want to test again with GRC's test after you believe it's off. Probably that will solve the problem. That is, turning it off because it's normally on, turn it off, and as long as GRC's test shows green, as you said.
Hang on, Steve. We're out of time. We'll get back to you in a second. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And so the couple of questions that people asked, and we can continue because the podcast.
Yeah, I didn't mean to take up so much time.
No, that's not. I did a spot and stuff. It's fine. What about open Wi-Fi access spots? Could this be a problem on those? The internet is an absolute necessity for us.
It would be a way for, if the open Wi-Fi access router could have UPnP enabled, and probably does. So it would be a way for bad guys to get into the Wi-Fi network. Yeah.
So you should be aware of this on an access point, open access point as well.
Yeah. Although I guess I would say standard open Wi-Fi, precautions would yes. Yeah. You certainly, that's its own kettle of worms.
Right. You're already in bad shape to begin with. Yeah. Yeah, an access point by itself is not the problem, but most access points are routers as well.
Exactly.
And you may be on a network. There will be a router at some point.
They are, because they've got one IP and on the inside, or on the outside, and clearly they're hosting a private LAN on the inside.
And they face out to the public internet. So
Yeah, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if they offer UPnP. Nice response here, Leo. It's
yeah, and it's going up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the count. I was just going to say that from your mention of this yesterday, it looked like about 200 listeners found themselves with some weekend configuring to do.
We're not overstating the risk of this, right? I mean,
We're really not. No, I mean, this is what we will be hearing in a few months is that people are being hacked. It seems like, frankly, only 21 IPs or 22 IPs so far doesn't seem like that many when you consider, the bulk of it. But the bad guys are going to get to it.
Do you have a percentage of the testers that fail? It's a fairly low percentage.
Yeah, it is a low percentage because this thing has been super active. We're seeing about, I think it's been about 14,000 tests a day, although I haven't looked recently. But, and many fewer. Well, still, that's, when you think about it, it's not like 50,000 tests a day. Right. So, but I'm not, the problem is, I don't want to, I would be false counting if people were like doing multiple tests and it was closed unless I was keeping a big IP list. And it's like, it sort of seems not worth it. I just wanted to show the exposures.
Right. But those are uniques.
Those are uniques. The PDP-8 project is going to come back. And
good.
It'll cost $1,000 to get a completely finished and assembled kit. But I mean, a finished and assembled unit. But it would be kind of cool for you to have one back there behind you, blinking away.
How about unfinished, unassembled unit? How much does that cost?
I think that's like $699.
So you're paying $300 for assembly?
Yeah, they're not cheap because they're low volume and just they're so beautiful.
And how hard is it to assemble? Does it involve soldering?
That's a lot of money. Yeah, you got to really. Yeah, I mean, was it Kathleen? It wasn't Eileen. Who was your wonderful builder?
Colleen.
Girl? Colleen. That's right.
Did she order one?
No, but I mean, it's really you got to know your way around a soldering iron.
Oh, there's a lot of soldering. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. It is expensive when you consider it compared to a laptop, for example. It's like,
doesn't do anything. It just blinks.
There's that problem too. Yeah, he was just looking for 30 people, and he's got 5 so far.
Oh, it's very tempting. What's the website?
It's I made a bit.ly link, bit.ly/PDP-8, all lowercase.
Hang on, here we go. So since we started talking a few minutes ago, Steve Gibson and I, about this problem with routers, many thousands of router manufacturers, many router models, many hundreds of manufacturers, many millions of machines. Quite a few people have done the test at grc.com/shields-up. Since we started talking, 14 people have found that they are vulnerable to this.
Yeah.
So those of you who find you're vulnerable to this, you should immediately go into your router settings, turn off UPnP, test again, and hope that you're not still vulnerable.
Yeah, I have found, I'm also monitoring the internet. I have a large block of unused IPs. So when scanners are scanning the internet, I will see packets coming into those IPs just as a part of the scan. And I've so far I've identified 22 different remote anonymous somebodies who are probing for this vulnerability in routers.
So these are bad guys looking for vulnerable routers so they can hack them.
Well, there are probably a couple good guys. I believe that the original,
that's a good point.
I think the original Rapid 7 guys, H.D. Moore and company, who did the test, I think they're still scanning. Okay. And I've identified their IP. But still, that leaves 22 or 21 others unaccounted for. So it's
how
not
are we overstating the risks? What can happen if you don't fix this?
Well, no one wants to have their network exposed to the outside world.
Can they see my data?
It would absolutely be like somebody you didn't trust being on your home network.
So anything you're sharing, for instance, internally would be visible. They could use perhaps your printer, your cameras.
Also, network shared servers, NAS
your NAS
boxes,
servers, they'd be visible.
Yes, and they often support universal plug and play so that they can be easily configured.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you need to think
aware
about.
Of.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Steve. Steve's at grc.com. The test is grc.com/shields-up. Encourage you to do it and tell your friends. Take action if you come up positive. That means turn off UPnP in your router. You should do that anyway.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing to have.
Thanks for spreading the word, Leo.
grc.com. And everybody should watch or listen to, you get your choice, the last episode of Security Now where we go into this in great detail. And every Wednesday, Steve and I talk security at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern at twit.tv. So if you're a real hardcore security nerd, this is the show for you. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Leo.
Cheryl's very patient in Canyon Lake, California. Thank you for hanging on, Cheryl. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Well, thank you. I'm very patient because I don't want to leave the show without asking you my questions here.
You're desperate.
Yeah, I am. Even though I like technology, I've got your show on my Samsung Galaxy Note. I'm looking at your chat room on my iPad 4.
Well, you are a geek. I'm sorry, you can deny it, but you are.
Well, I'm talking on an iPhone 5, and I'm looking at my Twitter account on my iPad Mini.
Aren't you great?
That's why I called, is that I want a voice. And this Twitter stuff, I do a tweet, and it's like I'm the only one that sees
Right, you don't have any followers. Nobody's going to see your tweets.
Well, but how do you respond to people out there, like, you're watching these TV shows and they say, well, respond to us or send us your tweet, and it's like, when I do, where does my tweet go?
Well, if you use the hashtag, they always say, that pound sign, the hash sign, they always say hashtag SB47 for Super Bowl 47 or hashtag CSI SVU or whatever. If you use that hashtag, they can see it because they don't have to be followers to see your tweet as long as you have public tweets. Okay. So what they're doing is they're scanning the hashtag. If you want to talk back to a company, let's say you're upset about Comcast, you would add at Comcast Cares, which is their Twitter handle, and they would see it as a tweet aimed at them. So you don't have to be following them. They don't have to be following you. You can still communicate that way.
So I was watching the Today Show, and I wanted to make a comment on something. So
I would use, first you need to know what their Twitter handle is.
Yeah, I do. I have it. It's at the Today Show.
Perfect. So just make sure that at Today Show is in your tweet, at any point in your tweet. Now, if you don't want anybody to see it except you, the Today Show, and people who are following both of you, put at Today Show at the very beginning of your tweet, and that'll only go to the Today Show and people following you and the Today Show. Both.
But how come it doesn't show up on their page then when I'm watching?
Because they are very carefully selecting what shows up on their page.
Oh.
Because as you might imagine, if you're a national television show, there are also people saying all kinds of things. And so what they do, they can't, there may be millions of tweets. They can't show it all.
Okay.
So as long as you put at Today Show in that tweet, and I would, if they have a hashtag on screen or mention a hashtag, definitely use that too. They can at least see it. Whether they'll put it in their feed is another matter. Not everything gets in the feed.
That's what I was missing. I've been reading and looking at books and
it's not clear at all.
Trying to figure this out and never can get the question answered. I knew you could. I love your show, Leo.
Thanks, Cheryl.
You've been a great help. I can finally rest now.
If you want to message me, just put at Leo Laporte in your tweet.
Yeah, all right? I'm following you.
Yeah,
okay.
You don't even have to follow me. That's the beauty of it. Though Twitter is very hard for people to understand because it's nothing like anything that's come before it. I use it as a broadcast medium. So when I tweet, I have several 100,000 followers. They all see it. But if you have 20 followers, it's not a megaphone for you. So usually for most normal people, the way to use Twitter is to watch it as a stream of information. But you can actually talk to people as long as you put their handle in there with the @ sign or the hashtag that they ask you to use, then they can see you.
So if I put at Leo,
at Leo Laporte, if you put that anywhere in your message, beginning, middle, or end, I will see it.
Wow.
I may not respond to it because, like the Today Show, I get quite a few tweets. Not as many as the Today Show, but you can't. It's not. it has some advantages over email and some disadvantages. It's easy to ignore, but on the other hand, there's more signal to noise in tweets than there is. There's lots less spam. So a lot of times I will respond to tweets.
Well, I've really enjoyed the talk on your security. My husband works for, he works computer security for one of the largest government contractors in the world.
Well, he must be aware of this.
And I'm going to have to run out and ask him if he knows about this. I'm sure he does because, he interfaces with the Pentagon and so on.
Well, and this is a brand new one, I mean, this is something that just came out, and so he may not know. These things, they tend to spread rapidly, but there's so many security flaws these days. Cheryl,
for making us aware of it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I one of the name drops I often do is I taught Regis Philbin how to tweet. I used to, since 2001, I've gone on live with Regis and Kelly showing off gadgets, and they asked me to teach Regis to tweet about a year ago. And it was really an amazing experience because while they have had a Twitter account for a long time, it was handled by a staffer. And occasionally Kelly would tweet. She understood. She's younger and understood. But Regis didn't really have that much interest. I showed him, and then when his tweet was, I just announced my retirement on the show today. And then I said, okay, now let's go to the mentions where they say, I think it was the Regis and Kelly account. So whatever that was, at Regis and Kelly. And, of course, immediately hundreds of tweets are coming in every few seconds. He called his wife. He said, Joy, get on the Twitter. You won't believe it. He'd never seen anything like it. It's really remarkable. I'm out of time. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Joy, you got to see this. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. I'm Leo Laporte. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, the Tech Guy is just the tip of the iceberg. We do nearly 30 shows now on the Twit Netcast Network, and you'll find them all at twit.tv. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPad on iPad Today. You get your daily dose of tech news from Tech News Today, and our weekly roundtable show, This Week in Tech. It's all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next time with another great Tech Guy podcast. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.